Atsumu wakes up surprised to realize he's still alive, despite having used all his magic. He questions the situation and can't believe he's still alive. Looking in the mirror, he's shocked by his new appearance. A doctor enters the room along with the nurse, and she addresses our guy as Kusanagi, which confuses him even more upon hearing that unfamiliar name. The doctor asks him to lie down and tries to check his wounds. He removes the bandages and is surprised to see that the protagonist is completely healed. He can't believe what he's seeing. The doctor recalls that he was in a horrible condition the day before, after a traffic accident and losing consciousness, and wonders how the boy has already healed so quickly. The doctor thinks it's as if he'd been healed by holy magic. Kusanagi gets confused, hearing about the traffic accident, and reveals that his body can heal automatically using holy magic powers. He asks the doctors if his magical power has been depleted, but they don't understand what he's trying to say. He tells them he was in the middle of a fight against monsters during the calamity. The doctor and the nurse are surprised by his words. The doctor asks the boy if he still remembers his name and the current year, and Ichikami says his name and believes it's still 1970. But the doctor assumes he's experiencing a distorted memory and calls it a memory loss problem. The doctor informs the boy that his real name is Kusanagi Manato and that the current year is 2022. Kusanagi is confused and finds it hard to believe all this. He looks at the doctor and assumes he's telling the truth. He notices the television and wonders how it's so thin and has such a sharp picture. The protagonist finds a calendar and confirms that it really is 2022. He is surprised to see a thin device in the nurse's hands. Our guy gets confused and starts to wonder if he's really in the future. The doctor reveals information about the calamity our guy mentioned. He recalls that it happened 50 years ago, but it hasn't happened again since then. The protagonist can't believe his words and asks, "What happened to all the monsters?" The doctor calls it a peaceful era and reveals that there are hardly any monsters now. Kusanagi learns that the world has finally achieved true peace and feels relieved. He thanks God and starts to smile. The doctor tells him that Ichikami, the person he's talking about, died in the calamity 50 years ago. He is considered a hero who sacrificed his own life to save the world. The doctor doesn't believe the Kusanagi is Ichikami Atsumu. Our guy assumes he died 50 years ago and somehow managed to reincarnate as Kusanagi Manato. He doesn't understand how this happened, and as a week passes, he finally enters his apartment and checks Kusanagi's room. He feels sad learning about the former Kusanagi's life. His parents died when he was just a child. He was also kicked out by his new adoptive parents and sent to a bad boarding school. Since then, Kusanagi has been surviving on his parents' inheritance. The protagonist has never heard of something known as reincarnation magic. He wonders if the reincarnation he's experiencing is the work of a god, or perhaps it all happened by chance. He looks at Kusanagi's Magic Academy card and remembers that, in his time, there was no such thing as a Magic Academy. He finds it interesting. Suddenly, his phone starts to ring, he wonders what it is, and answers the phone. He sees someone named Tadano is calling him, but he doesn't understand what to do. Kusanagi decides to ignore it and tosses the phone. The phone keeps ringing and a message pops up. Tadano says he knows our boy was discharged from the hospital and tells him to come back to school, since he's running out of money. The next day, our boy attends the Magic Academy. And upon entering the school, he starts to look around, excited to attend school again as an adult, enjoying the moment. As he does, he notices a random student using his magical abilities to attack a training dummy. Kusanagi is disappointed by the scene and wonders why everyone has such weak magical powers. He observes more students and realizes they are all a complete mess. He can hardly believe it. He remembers that even the rookies from his time were 10 times stronger than these pathetic students. He doubts they will ever become successful mages, and even though it's a peaceful era now, he doesn't understand why magic has declined so much. 1, he enters his classroom and finds his seat. 2, he starts to feel excited about his school life and wonders if he will make any friends in class. 3, suddenly, a red-haired student appears with 2 other guys, asking our boy why he ignored his messages. Kusanagi doesn't recognize the guy, so he politely asks for his name. Tadano gets furious and kicks the desk while shouting his name. He calls Kusanagi weak and a piece of trash. But our boy doesn't take him seriously. He suddenly remembers this is the guy who is calling him and assumes Tadano must be his friend. Tadano smirks maliciously and holds out his hand asking for money. 3. Tadanosuke gets angry and grabs him by the collar while demanding money. He tries to scare Kusanagi, believing he has a lot of inheritance money from his parents. Kusanagi finally understands the situation and realizes that his former self was being bullied. Tadano tries to throw a punch to put our boy in his place, but suddenly, a beautiful, blue-haired girl enters the classroom. She wishes everyone a good morning, and her pretty smile calms Tadano down. He decides to let our boy go, but makes it clear he expects money from him later. Kusanagi is annoyed, but the bully finally leaves the classroom. Class finally begins, and the teacher starts talking about the Great Calamity, also known as the Last Calamity. 50 years ago, monsters appeared all over the world, driving humanity to despair. But the great sage known as Ichikami Atsumu was determined to save humanity. He never gave up and destroyed all the monsters by himself. He finally faced the demon god known as the Calamities Lord, the cause behind the entire phenomenon. And Ichikami risked his own life to defeat the final boss, and since that day, the calamity has never returned. The teacher begins to ask the students about the great sage. The blue-haired girl from before raises her hand. Her name is Masuja. The teacher gives her permission to answer the question. She says that Ichikami is the great sage and the first mage who survived the first calamity. He is also responsible for having their academy built. Her eyes start to sparkle with excitement as she shares that Ichikami is humanity's hero, the idol of all mages in the world. The professor confirms she's correct and teaches the class about the great sage who survived the first calamity and was the first to learn how to use magic. The academy was created to make more mages like him. He's the strongest mage in human history. The professor advises them to learn about him and prepare for the upcoming magical power exam. The protagonist starts to feel embarrassed hearing everyone praise Ichikami. He didn't expect such torture and begins to regret joining the academy. He remembers what the doctor said and assumes everyone has weak magic because the world is now at peace. He looks out the window and starts to smile as he enjoys his new peaceful life. The professor finally ends the class and hopes everyone is prepared for the magical power assessment exam tomorrow. Tadano approaches the protagonist again and asks him if he heard what the professor said. He's excited and thinks it'll be fun to see puppy Kusanagi's magic skills. Our boy wonders why the bully won't shut up. He decides to leave the classroom, and as he walks away, Tadano points out that not even his parents had magical abilities. The bully calls him an orphan and starts laughing at him. The protagonist finally starts to talk back. Tadano gets furious hearing Kusanagi insult him. His patience runs out and he starts to activate some kind of fire magic. The classmates are surprised and try to stop him. One of them wonders if he's really going to use a spell like that inside the classroom. Tadano launches the magic spell at our boy, hoping he'll die. The blue-haired girl steps forward to stop him, but she's too late. Seeing the fire blast approaching, the protagonist remains completely unfazed. The magic attack hits him hard, and all the students back away. Mitsuha calls him a fool and warns him not to use magic in such a pointless fight, not wanting anyone to get hurt. Tadano defends himself, blaming Kusanagi and refusing to accept his fault. The students worry about our boy, but when the smoke clears, Kusanagi is unharmed. The students are shocked, and he admits that it surprised him. Tadano, scared, wonders why Kusanagi is still standing despite taking the magic attack head-on. Our boy can easily defend against level 1 magic with his barrier. Without using his powers, he put up with the insults because Tadano is just a kid, but now he thinks he needs to be punished. With a cold expression, he heads towards the bully. Tadano sweats nervously, and Kusanagi unleashes his magic. The students are frozen, unable to move, all wondering what's happening. 1. Mitsuha wonders what is going on. 2. Kusanagi walks towards Tadano. 3. Extending his hand. 4. Tadano nearly wets himself. 5. But the professor intervenes, entering the classroom and asking about the noise. He asks if someone is using magic inside the classroom. 6. Kusanagi assures him that nothing is happening inside. Believing the magic came from outside, the professor remembers that there is no magic activity today. but our boy says someone outside their department might be practicing. The professor demands an explanation for the smoke, and Kusanagi replies that it came from outside. The professor believes him, orders the class to return to their seats, and resolves to find the culprit. 1. Kusanagi apologizes with a smile and decides to create false evidence to close the case. All the students, including Misuha, are surprised. 2. Tadano grits his teeth in frustration. 3. The protagonist believes the students are weak and doubts they can kill a monster. 4. Although the calamity ended 50 years ago, he knows that dangerous monsters might still exist. He decides to investigate at night. Entering the old Zabulla using magic circles, observing the ruined city and remembering what it was like in his past life, he finds no monsters and assumes the police took care of them. Suddenly, he feels a monster's aura and the presence of a human nearby, and moves quickly to investigate. A monster corners a white-haired girl who is crying in fear and begging for her life. The monster moves to devour her, but the boy intervenes. The monster roars in pain and dies in a single attack. The protagonist notices a police badge on her clothes, assuming she's from the mage police. He advises her to be more careful next time. She thanks him, but he summons magic circles and leaves. She wonders who he was, thinking he's a great mage, but questions how he defeated the monster without reciting any spells. Kusanagi is relieved that his face is hidden, not wanting to draw attention, since he has just been reincarnated. He's surprised to see a mage cop almost die at the hands of a weak monster, and assumes that even the police are weaker now. He doubts that the people of this era can defeat the monsters. The entire new generation, including the students and the police, is much weaker than before. 2, he smiles upon realizing that humanity needs his powers again. 3, he starts to move, determined to defeat all the monsters in Zone 4. The next day, at the academy, the professor asks everyone to prepare for the Magic Power Test 5. He hopes they measure both attributes and quantity correctly, as they are crucial if they want to pursue a profession as mages. Our boy wonders why his powers can't be measured without the strange device, understanding its necessity for students, but wondering how a professor can be unaware that magic perception is the foundation of magic. Misuha steps forward and asks if this is the right time. The students notice they're talking and wonder why Misuha is getting Kusanagi's attention. She introduces herself as the second daughter of the noble magic house Mizuhaya. He doesn't understand what a noble family is, so she explains that she is from one of the 4 major noble houses, leaders of the mages. He doesn't recognize her and remembers there were no noble families in his era. Observing her weak magic, he wonders why she's bragging about her prominent family of mages with such a pathetic level of magic. Misuha asks why he's so uninterested, expecting him to be more grateful. Tadano grits his teeth in jealousy, wondering what they could be talking about. Kusanagi asks her why a magic noble would talk to someone like him, a commoner. She gets annoyed, but tries to maintain her dignity, thinking she must behave properly as a noble. He asks if she has some kind of mental problem. Misu remembers the magical explosion that didn't harm him at all yesterday and wonders if there's a reason behind it. She tries to bring it up, but the teacher interrupts, telling the students to get ready for the measurements. Kusanagi takes the opportunity to walk away smiling. Misuha decides to wait and see his true powers after the evaluations. Tadano, feeling confident, unleashes his powers, showing 1000 magic power with a fire attribute. He celebrates his improvement. Kusanagi notes that the standards are the same as in his time. Then Misuha steps forward, unleashing her magic. Her attribute is water, and her magic power is 2000. Everyone is surprised, and the teacher praises both her and Tadano, saying they are at the top and will become great mages. The students start praising them too. Kusanagi, disappointed, calls it a joke, thinking that 2000 magic power is no better than an amateur level. Misuha looks proud, trying to show off the power of her noble family. He wonders why she is looking at him so proudly. Suddenly, he hears the teacher call him for the evaluations. As he walks to the device, he hears the students talking about his results from last year. Despite excelling in his studies, he was last in magic power. Tadano, thinking Kusanagi has no talent, expects to see him get embarrassed. Misuha wonders how much power Kusanagi is hiding, but doubts he can surpass her. Irritated, Kusanagi remembers how he stood out in his past life, which was annoying. He considers holding back, but decides to go all out, unleashing his full power with a smile and challenging the machine to handle the power of the greatest sage in history. The machine glows and a beam of light shoots out of the building, which is noticed by two students from different classes. Misuha is confused. As the machine starts to behave strangely, it glows brighter before a huge explosion destroys it. The students run for cover from the explosion. Our boy is disappointed that the machine broke, thinking he barely even tried. He doubts any of his classmates could have sensed his magic power. The teacher, worried, asks if everyone is okay. They assure him they are. He asks Kusanagi if he's okay, commenting that he was lucky to have been in the middle of the explosion. The teacher wonders if the device malfunctioned and worries that it's now impossible to measure Kusanagi's magic power and attributes. Kusanagi asks why the teacher is so worried. He says he was hoping to divide the students into groups for combat class, but he can't decide without the evaluation results. The teacher asks Tadano to take Kusanagi and his group. Tadano agrees, seeing an opportunity to bully our boy. The teacher is relieved, glad that it's Tadano. The bully approaches Kusanagi, saying he's looking forward to their combat class, with a twisted and malicious expression. The students arrive at Old Zabulla, and the teacher explains to them that there are still some monsters living inside the city that was destroyed by the Great Calamity. Mages and the police regularly come to this abandoned city to fight the monsters that still live here. The Academy's students also have to help with this. For some reason, the teacher assures them not to stress, as most of the monsters have already been eliminated by professional mages and police officers. Our boy wasn't expecting a practical class. He hopes the students can eliminate some monsters since they will be working in groups. He remembers coming here the night before, but it feels weird sensing some monsters nearby. He recalls that he cleaned the place thoroughly yesterday. He finds no signs of a disaster nearby and wonders why more monsters keep appearing in Old Zabulla. He hears some girls talking about competing against each other despite it being a practical class. Our boy is surprised to see the students acting so nonchalantly. Masuja is carefully watching Kusanagi for some reason. The professor starts the practical class and hopes everyone will work well as a team. Tadano spots the protagonist and calls out to him. He approaches our boy with his group and advises him to stay where he is and not to interfere. Tadano makes it clear that he won't be taking it easy this time. And Kusanagi just lets it slide like before. The protagonist doesn't get why they don't just ignore him if they hate him so much. Tadano gets angry and orders him not to talk back. He doesn't understand why Masuja keeps talking to Kusanagi even though he's completely useless. Our boy is surprised to hear this and figures out that Tadano has a crush on Masuja. 1. Tadano gets furious. 2. The protagonist notices something and the bullies try to attack him with their magical powers. 3. But he warns them to stop. Tadano makes it clear that an apology won't cut it this time. 4. 3. Kusanagi tells him to look back, but Tadano thinks he's just trying to pull some silly trick to save himself. Tadano looks back and the entire group of bullies finds a tall monster standing right behind them. They all start sweating nervously and wonder why a demon soldier is in this abandoned town. The other bullies cheer Tadano on, believing he can defeat it. 1. He assures them that he will win, albeit with an anxious expression on his face. He moves forward and attacks it with his fire magic. An explosion occurs as the attack hits the monster. 2. Tadano and his friends are relieved. 3. But when the smoke clears, the monster is still standing and facing them. Tadano doesn't see a single scratch on it and becomes terrified. Our boy reveals that his pathetic level 1 magic won't do a thing against a demon soldier. As the monster moves forward, the entire group is terrified. They all drop to their knees and begin to tremble. Tadano's eyes well up with tears, and he wonders if his life is going to end right there. He also pathetically wets himself, but just as he's about to be killed, the demon soldier notices our boy's power. The monster gets scared and takes a step back. Kusanagi steps forward and is surprised that the monster could sense who among them was the strongest. He confronts the demon soldier and unleashes his power. the monster starts going all out too and summons multiple magic circles. Tadano and his group doubt the protagonist can defeat it. Everyone accepts their death. The monster summons a level 2 magic spell called Shattered Rock. A huge boulder is about to hit our boy, but he remains unperturbed and just smiles. He unleashes a level 1 magic spell called Fire Arrow and shoots it towards the demon soldier. His fire arrow completely destroys the boulder thrown by the monster. It also hits the demon soldier and a massive explosion occurs. Tadano and his buddies open their eyes in shock to see that the monster has been killed. Tadano wonders what's going on and asks himself if Kusanagi is behind all this. He can't believe it and thinks it's impossible for someone like him, Kusanagi. But our boy makes it clear that if he's the one using it, even level 1 magic is enough to defeat a demon soldier. He finds it strange to see monsters like that appearing in Zafula, even though he just cleared the whole place and defeated all the monsters in the area yesterday. He thinks that maybe it's some kind of bad omen before a great disaster. The protagonist wonders if he should take the whole situation seriously. Suddenly, he has flashbacks of the destruction he saw in his past life. 1, he had to watch many people, including his loved ones, die in front of him. 2, he gets a little sad and clenches his fist. 3, the protagonist resolves to save humanity even if the calamity ends up happening again. 4, the other bullies admit that they saw Kusanagi defeat the demon soldier. They wonder if it's the same Kusanagi they know. Tadano gets frustrated and punches the wall. He feels angry and doesn't understand what's happening. Meanwhile, Misuha watches everything from behind and is surprised to learn more about Kusanagi. Misuha summons a level 1 magic called Water Sofa and easily defeats a weak monster. Her companions are amazed, so they start praising her. She feels irritated and wonders why common people are so easily impressed. She believes it's just because she's a genius. Suddenly, she finds Tadano's group. Misuha asks her party members to take care of the rest and leaves. She thinks that Tadano might be bullying the protagonist again and feels excited. She runs quickly to watch them and not miss this opportunity. She gets behind a wall and takes a peek. Misuha is surprised to see a demon soldier. She doubts they can face a monster like that in combat, but despite being scared, the girl decides to help them since she belongs to the Misuha family. She is sure she can do something. Misuha runs towards the group, shouting for everyone to start running. Suddenly, a huge wave of fire magic is launched in front of her and hits the demon soldier. Kusanagi takes down the strong monster in a single attack. Misuha is in shock and wonders if our boy is behind all this. She remembers that Kusanagi used to be a shy kid with weak magical powers. The girl can't believe she's looking at the same Kusanagi she used to watch closely, and she didn't even hear any chanting. Misuha doesn't understand how it's possible that he defeated a demon soldier with just level 1 magic without even reciting a spell. It's all too hard for her to believe. She understands that the strength of each demon is determined by the number of crystals they have in their body. This method is also used to establish a ranking among demons. Magical beasts are ranked at level 6, demon soldiers at level 5, demon captains at level 4, demon generals at level 3, the demon king is at level 2, and finally, the strongest demon, also known as the demon god, is at level 1. These numbers are fixed for each demon, so every modern mage knows that you need at least level 3 magic to defeat a demon soldier. She doesn't believe that level 1 magic is enough to beat him. Kusanagi starts walking in her direction. She knows she has no reason to hide, so she peeks again and watches the protagonist. He calls her out for spying like that. She blushes and asks him how he figured it out. Our guy thinks it would be foolish not to know, since she's a mage. Misuha gets confused. He's disappointed to see they really can't detect magic at all. The guy starts to walk away. She tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen and keeps walking. Misuha demands an explanation and starts running after him, but she can't find anyone in the alley. Kusanagi jumps onto a building and feels irritated seeing the girl trying her best to find him. He decides to check the surroundings for monsters and discovers there are no demon soldiers left in the area, but there are still many magical beasts. After seeing everyone's pathetic performance against one demon soldier, he doubts that other students are capable of facing the magical beasts. The protagonist decides to get rid of some magical beasts. His body suddenly starts to glow as he activates his magic. He can cover the area around the abandoned city, so he summons 2 magic circles and uses his level 2 magic called Barricade. 1. Multiple beams of light shoot into the sky and spread across Cibola. 2. Tadano and his group notice the beam of light. They think they're seeing shooting stars. 3. Masuha recognizes it as magic and wonders who unleashed multiple magic skills at once. 4. Somewhere inside Zabula, 2 students are surrounded by magical beasts. They feel hopeless as they watch multiple monsters approach them at the same time. They both give up and accept their fate. But as the monster moves in to kill the girl, it suddenly stops and starts screaming in pain as it's hit by the strong beam of light. The students wonder if they are okay. The protagonist watches everything from above. He feels amazing watching all the monsters die. He sees them drop dead and suddenly realizes he went overboard and ended up killing almost all the monsters in Zabula. Kusanagi gets worried and wonders if the class will still go on after this. He regrets not holding back. 1. He uses his magic circles to move through the city and finds a hidden alley where he lands. 2. He doesn't want to hide his powers more than necessary, but all the attention is annoying. 3. He rejoins his classmates and the teachers. The teacher checks the dead body of a magical beast and wonders why there are still so many left. 1. He thought most of them had already been hunted or killed. 2. He believes a skilled person just killed them, since killing a monster with a single blow isn't easy. 3. He remembers the magic that killed the monsters. He knows that firing so many magic bullets falls under the null attribute. 4. Amazed. He admits he's never seen anything like it before. He accepts that things would have gotten out of hand without the magic bullets, knowing that even firing 2 is an impressive achievement. The teacher is in disbelief and understands that if the number reaches 6 or more, no average student can use such magic. The students shout in frustration, wondering why they had to face so many monsters and almost lose their lives. The teacher bows and apologizes. He recalls confirming with the police that most of the monsters had already been exterminated and regrets not double-checking with the school. He sincerely apologizes for putting the entire class in danger. A student asks him if someone came to save them. The teacher says he has no idea, but adds that it wasn't the police or an official mage, but probably some illegal mage. He thanks the unknown savior in his heart. Our guy smiles as, hearing the teacher indirectly praise him, he notices some students discussing his magic bullets, all wondering what they were. Kusanagi is relieved to see that everyone is okay, even his bullies. Tadano grinds his teeth in frustration. The whole group of bullies glares at the protagonist. Masuha remembers seeing Kusanagi defeat a demon soldier all by himself with only level 1 magic, followed by some kind of infinite magic. She wonders if Kusanagi is behind both magics, since fire and null are different attributes, and doubts that any student could have both. Even he calms himself down, thinking it is impossible for him to have 2 attributes and assumes someone else is behind the null attribute. He still does not understand how Kusanagi defeated the demon soldier alone. Tadano's group suggests that he might also be behind the laser beams. Tadano calls it impossible, but his friend reminds him that Kusanagi also defeated the demon soldier. Tadano gets angry and warns his friend to shut up or he will kill him. 1. His friends are terrified. 2. Tadano makes it clear that he will never believe someone like Kusanagi is capable of such feats. He believes Kusanagi is hiding something. 3. His followers agree and remember how cowardly Kusanagi is. 4. Tadano yells in rage, saying that he will prove Kusanagi is cheating. He is determined to corner Kusanagi and force him to reveal his true identity. After school, Kusanagi comes out and is surrounded by a large gang of bullies. Tadano steps forward and says he has been waiting patiently. The protagonist feels irritated and advises them to put that persistence into learning magic instead. Tadano believes he has no right to say such things, since he is cheating too. Kusanagi is confused by the cheating accusation, but Tadano insists he is definitely hiding cheap tricks. Tired of their nonsense, Kusanagi realizes there is no point in reasoning with them. Tadano orders him to follow. He praises Kusanagi for not running away. Kusanagi clarifies that there is no reason to. Tadano does not believe him and attacks, throwing a punch, knowing Kusanagi will not use magic in a public park. The punch hits his face, but he remains unfazed. The bullies gang up to attack him, but he remains patient and does not fight back. Tadano asks what is wrong with him, assuming Kusanagi cannot do anything without his magic. He continues to attack, making it clear he will not stop and will kill Kusanagi, even if he begs. The protagonist feels disappointed as their attacks do not even graze him. 1. His magic powers automatically defend him from any physical attack. 2. Annoyed, he decides to play hurt to satisfy Tadano. 3. Suddenly, someone appears behind him and asks why they are attacking Kusanagi. Tadano turns around and sees it is Misuha. The bully gets embarrassed and tries to clarify, telling Misuha that they are just playing around. She does not fall for his trick and calls him out for bullying Kusanagi. She is disappointed to see her classmates acting that way and wonders if they are not ashamed of their actions. Tadano feels awkward, but he blames Kusanagi for everything. He thinks that Misuha now hates him, all because of Kusanagi. She grabs the protagonist's hand and starts dragging him out of that whole mess. Tadano notices her grabbing Kusanagi's hand, gets jealous, and feels fed up. Tadano stops holding back and loses his patience, attempting to launch a magic attack toward Kusanagi, who gets irritated. Tadano prepares to end his life, and his minions activate their magic as well. Misuha wonders why they are acting that way. The whole group launches a fire attack toward the protagonist. Misuha knows how dangerous it is, so she tries to save Kusanagi, but she fails to get there in time. He takes the full brunt of all the attacks. Tadano laughs confidently, believing that no cheap trick will help Kusanagi save himself from so much power. His minions get worried and wonder if he died. Tadano calls them fools for worrying so much and makes up a story, saying they only use magic outside of school and that it ended up getting out of control. Kusanagi just got caught in the whole mess and that's why he was injured. The minions think they went too far as the smoke clears. Kusanagi says he was trying to be patient, since they are nothing but brats to him, but their stupidity has no cure unless they are punished. He prepares to teach them a lesson. Tadano is surprised to find him alive, despite them throwing such powerful spells at him. Kusanagi gets serious and tells them they shouldn't have dragged Misuha into their fight. He wonders just how rotten they are to act that way. Tadano shouts and blames both of them for this mess. He thinks they should regret making fun of him, so he brings out another magic circle and announces they will keep attacking until Kusanagi finally drops dead. Our boy pulls out a small magic circle. The bullies laugh at him and call it a piece of junk. They assume he's bluffing and all attack at once with everything they've got, hoping that Kusanagi will finally die. The protagonist uses Magic Drain. Strange green tentacles emerge from the small circle and trap the entire gang. Everyone is terrified and tries to break free, but they fail miserably. Their strength is absorbed, and the bullies begin to pass out. Tadano and his minions stop moving. Kusanagi feels disappointed. He hoped they would last a little longer. He hopes the bullies will reflect on this and learn their place. Misuha is confused. She wonders if she just saw magic a moment ago. She is surprised to see that the entire gang was knocked unconscious, but she doesn't understand how it happened. Kusanagi gets up and tries to leave, but Misuha stops him and asks him what happened. She also asks him about the magic and recalls that he couldn't even cast a weak spell just a few days ago. She wonders who he is. The protagonist gets irritated by her behavior and confronts her, advising her to do something else instead of asking so many weird questions. Misuha starts to blush. She shows her gratitude and thanks him for saving her. The girl now asks him to answer her questions, but he is nowhere to be found. She feels embarrassed and wonders why he left her again. 1. At night, Kusanagi enters old Shibuya again and uses his magic circles to get around. 2. He had a bad feeling during the day, so he decided to come investigate what was going on. 3. He finds more monsters in the area, despite having killed them all during the day. He thinks this could be some kind of bad omen. The protagonist is sure he can handle everything himself if the monsters only appear in old Shibuya, but he is able to sense more in other places. He thinks it might be too much for the police and that there are a few good mages. He doubts he can defeat monsters all over the country alone. He doesn't know what to do, so he decides to formulate a plan first. He thinks about starting the elimination. He takes out all the monsters in old Shibuya, and while avoiding attention, he uses his magic bullets again and kills several monsters at once. A drunk man wanders into a dangerous place without realizing it. Suddenly, a monster appears behind him, but the protagonist instantly eliminates it. The man notices, but chalks it up to his imagination and starts to leave. Our guy hopes he wasn't seen, uses his magic circle, and jumps, but someone catches it all and records everything on their phone. The man is amazed and thinks his video will definitely go viral. He doesn't waste a second and posts it online. The next day, the principal calls for Tadano, Kusanagi, and Misuja. The homeroom teacher says he was informed that some students used magic off campus and makes it clear that any student caught will be expelled without hesitation. He lets them explain themselves. Tadano points at the protagonist and tries to blame him for everything, claiming that our guy came looking for a fight. Kusanagi is impressed by how easily Tadano lies and realizes he has no choice but to defend himself, even though it's super annoying. Just as he's about to say something, Misuja steps in and defends him. She tells the principal that they are all lying and reveals that Kusanagi was the one being bullied by Tadano and his friends, who launched the magic attacks at him first. The teacher listens intently and finds out our guy also used magic. She calls it self-defense and thinks it's not his fault since he had no other choice. Kusanagi is surprised by her. Tadano tries to tell the teacher that they are innocent too, but Misuja shuts him up and scolds him for his actions. She calls him a terrible person for bullying Kusanagi and then blaming him for everything when he faced the consequences. She doesn't get how he isn't ashamed of himself. Tadano calls Kusanagi trash and says he doesn't deserve to be at that school, justifying his actions by saying he was just trying to take out the trash. Misuja makes it clear that he's the trash and that he doesn't deserve to be at the academy. Tadano, still arrogant, says he's at the top of the class and is the only one worthy of being by her side. Kusanagi doesn't deserve it. She has no idea what he's talking about. Tadano warns her not to cover for Kusanagi and to open her eyes, suggesting she become his girl. She's disgusted and tells him there's zero chance she'd ever choose someone like him. Tadano is shocked by the rejection, and she turns him down for his violent nature, calling him a fool for confessing in such a weird situation. Our guy understands why she said that, but thinks she went a little overboard. Tadano faints after hearing the rejection, since he and his friends are the bad guys here, and Kusanagi was just defending himself from their magic attacks. The principal makes it clear he doesn't need students who selfishly use magic to hurt others. He expels Tadano and his group. Tadano's followers try to defend themselves, saying they were just doing what Tadano told them to. The teacher lets Kusanagi and Misuja leave and return to their classes. Both of them walk out of the principal's office. Misuja is furious and calls Tadano the absolute worst kind of guy. Our guy asks what will happen now that they're expelled. She explains that they have no chance of ever becoming mages, which is pretty obvious. She doesn't understand why Kusanagi didn't defend himself. He says he was just about to, but she didn't give him a chance. Suddenly, she remembers something and asks him, "What's wrong?" Kusanagi says he was thinking about all the times she tried to save him, first in class, during their fight, and now when the principal called them. She blushes uncontrollably and gets embarrassed. Misu tells him to shut up and runs to the classroom to get in first. Kusanagi smiles as he watches her leave. He thinks that the old Kusanagi died and he was reincarnated into this body. Our boy wonders if he was bullied to death or if it was really just a traffic accident. He still doesn't know the truth, but he feels relieved that the bullies have been punished for whatever they did. He hopes this is worth it and smiles. The principal informs two senior students about what happened earlier, saying that some students had a fight and even used magic in public. He assures them that no one was hurt. The senior student asks why she was called if there's no longer a problem. The principal tells her that one of the students involved is Yomisuha, the blue-haired student. She understands and thanks the principal for informing her. He asks her to send his regards to her father. She tells him not to worry and reveals that her family is interested in investing in the school. She leaves with her friend, and the principal wonders if Kusanagi is absurdly strong, since fighting multiple mages at once is almost impossible. There's no way a normal student would win, unless he's hiding some kind of mysterious power. He wonders if Kusanagi is stronger than them, but the blue-haired girl answers negatively. He is curious about the boy and says he wants to meet him to confirm it. She thinks her little sister might be expelled depending on how competent Kusanagi is. By the way, this is Misuha Ruka from the third-year class, and her friend is Kasuragi Ryuji, also a third year. Kusanagi feels unmotivated now that his life is peaceful again. He hears some classmates talking about someone known as the Black Mage, and wonders if it's related to the magic nobles he learned about. He decides not to worry about it for now. The teacher shows up and calls Kusanagi outside for the assessment test. He explains that the students who couldn't be assessed last time now have the chance to take the test again. Misuha realizes what's happening and feels happy, since she'll finally be able to learn more about our boy. Suddenly, she notices that her older sister, Ruka, Misuha, and Kazuragi, are walking in. She wonders why her sister suddenly showed up. The teacher announces Kusanagi's turn, asking him to begin the magic power assessment test. Our boy remembers that he destroyed the machine last time, so he decides to be more careful and hold back. He tries to release his magic power, but suddenly starts to feel weird. Extreme fatigue hits him and he starts to breathe heavily. The teacher asks if he's okay, noticing the machine and checking the results. Misuha and the teacher are surprised to see that, for some reason, his attribute is none, and his magic power turns out to be only 100, which puts a smile on Kasuragi's face. Two students talk about Kusanagi, saying he has the lowest magic power in their group and labeling him as useless, since he doesn't even have an attribute. Kasuragi assumes there's no truth to the story they heard from the director and doesn't believe the protagonist defeated all the delinquents on his own. Ruka feels disappointed and decides to leave, since they have no reason to stay. The students notice that Kusanagi is tired just from the evaluation, and they understand. Since his magic power is extremely low, the teacher tries to comfort Kusanagi and tells him that magic power isn't the most important thing. However, Misuha can't believe her eyes. She remembers seeing our boy defeat the demon soldier all by himself, and knows he can use two attributes, fire and nullity. At the same time, she wonders what kind of trick he's using, since she has never heard of mages hiding their magic power by adjusting it somehow. The protagonist feels relieved and is happy with the result. He performed some kind of magic manipulation to alter the results. Although this is taking a toll on his body, he feels confident and thinks he has finally managed to control it. Upon leaving the room, our boy finds Misuha and learns that she was in the evaluation room out of curiosity. She tells him it was just out of curiosity. Suddenly, Ruka stops them both inside the school hallway. Kusanagi asks who they are, and she introduces herself and Kazuragi. He recognizes her last name and asks if she wants something from him. She tells him she has no interest in him and walks towards her little sister. Misuha gets worried and Ruka disappointed. Learns that her sister couldn't even win against a few delinquents. She also learns that Misuha was saved by someone with only 100 magic power and asks her if all of this is true. Misuha confirms it, which makes her sister angry. She orders Misuha to leave the academy. Misuha doesn't understand why she's saying all this for no reason. Ruka reminds her that she hasn't won a single fight. Whether it's academic results, sports, or magic, she always loses. Ruka doesn't think Misuha is good enough to become a mage. She thinks the best thing for Misuha is to leave the academy and join a normal school. Misuha starts to cry, but she can't say anything. Her sister asks if she understands everything she has said, and Misuha, anxiously, replies yes. Kusanagi finally intervenes and calls Ruka arrogant. She asks him to repeat what he said with a cold expression. He points out how she has been talking non-stop, without even listening to what her little sister has to say. It's clear to him that she is full of arrogance. She makes it clear that it's a conversation between two family members and that he has no right to butt in. He is surprised to hear her call this a conversation, when all he has heard is her ordering her sister around without giving her a chance to speak. She gets angry. But our boy still believes that even she doesn't have the right to tell someone how to live their life. He confronts her and tells her she's horrible for forcing her little sister to give up on what she wants to become. Ruka confidently says that her incompetent sister doesn't have the talent to become a mage, since she can't even defeat her. 1, Misuha starts to cry and agrees with her older sister. 2, she doesn't believe in herself and thinks she has been lying to herself all this time. 3. She tried to convince herself that she is a genius with the talents to become a mage. But she couldn't even defeat her older sister once. Kusanagi, confident, says that she can win against Ruka. Kusanagi starts to smile, which confuses everyone. Ruka asks if he is challenging her, and he asks for some time, since it's impossible for Misuha to win right now. Ruka gives them 2 weeks, suggesting they have a 2-on-2 magic duel. He is surprised, but accepts. Calling it nonsense, he asks Misuha if she's willing to do it, smiling, and she calms down, stopping her crying. Misuha becomes determined and agrees to participate in the challenge. Once it's decided, Kusanagi asks them to never speak of this matter again if he wins. Ruka wagers that her sister will have to leave the academy if she and Kusanagi lose the fight. She warns them and makes it clear that she has no intention of holding back, so they must prepare properly and face the truth. After a while, Misuha and Kusanagi go to the roof. She asks for his help and hopes he can teach her more about magic so she can improve quickly. Finally, he understands why he was called to the roof. He asks if she's really sure about learning magic from someone as useless as him, since his magic power is only 100. She isn't fooled by his words and already knows he's hiding his true strength. She believes he is much stronger than her. He realizes that this time she isn't backing down, she assumes he knows how to get stronger, and that's why he challenged her sister to a fight. He knows that Ruka is the type who desperately tries to control everything. It's part of her nature, which is why he provoked her into challenging him, but he can't tell Misuha that. She bows and starts begging for his help. He gives in and agrees to help her get stronger. She asks again to confirm it, and he warns her beforehand, making it clear that she must follow all his instructions and that there's no turning back once the training starts. She accepts all his conditions instantly. Kusanagi finds it hard to refuse her, since she's begging so earnestly. Besides, he already needs to prepare for some things after seeing the number of monsters in Zabulla. Raising a mage could be a promising idea. He decides to start her training today and thinks about finding a place to practice. Misuha starts to blush and invites him to her house with a shy expression. After a while, they arrive at her home. He is surprised to see the huge mansion, but she thinks it's only natural, since her father is a noble mage. Suddenly, Misuha remembers that this is the first time she's invited a boy to her house. She wonders if he found her invitation strange, even though she has no bad intentions. Kusanagi suggests they should start, but he notices she's daydreaming, so he calls her by her first name, saying Joan. The girl turns red upon hearing her first name, Joan, but he tells her he's just trying to avoid confusion, since his sister is also named Misuha. She feels a little disappointed hearing his answer. He asks if she has any other name in mind that he could use, but she accepts being called Joan. So he decides to start the training and tells her he's counting on her. The first question he asks her is about her magic power. She thinks it's easy and answers that it's the energy needed to perform magic and that it's available in everyone's body. Then he asks her about enchantments. Joan confidently replies that they are like a program that automatically converts magic into an attack. He asks if there's any way to increase a person's magic power, but she answers negatively and believes this is determined before birth and stops increasing after a certain age. Joan smiles confidently and feels proud of herself for having answered everything perfectly. He informs her that all her answers are wrong with a disappointed expression. She starts to get teary-eyed and asks if he's trying to call her dumb. The protagonist actually feels bad and wonders how foolish current mages are. He's surprised to see such a big change in just 50 years. He starts to explain that magic power isn't only found in their body, but also in nature and the surroundings. Enchantments or spells are simply ways to properly support the magic. It's also possible to increase magic power intentionally. She has a hard time believing his words and calls it all a lie, since it would go against the Academy's ideas, saying it would overthrow the Magic Academy if all this were true. He doesn't care if she believes his words or not. He intends to teach her about these 3 things during her training. He orders her to sit down and informs her that he's going to channel his magic power into her body. So she must let him know when she starts to feel it, she is surprised to discover there's a way to feel magic power. He makes it clear that she won't get stronger if it's impossible for her to feel it. He orders her to close her eyes and begins to touch her. He unleashes his magic power, but discovers that she still can't feel it. He releases more magic power and wonders how it's possible that she can't feel magic of such magnitude. Finally, Joan feels something. She thinks her back is getting warm. He teaches her about this and tells her it's called magic power perception. She finally understands what he was trying to tell her before. He orders her to always remember the feeling, as it's important for her to feel it first to be able to detect magic power. He explains that it's also available in nature. So she must find it as her first goal and get used to feeling magic power. She smiles confidently and assures him that she'll master it in no time. Since she is the noble daughter of the Masuja family, our boy doubts she can keep her promise. Since she couldn't even feel it when he poured so much magic power into her back, she accepts the fact that maybe she isn't destined to be a mage. A week passes and Joan starts to cry and tells our boy that she still can't perceive magic. It's a huge disappointment and disappoints the protagonist. He's surprised that a whole week wasn't enough for her to learn something so simple. Even though she practiced so much, he assumes she's just very slow to understand the concept. Since they have almost no time to rest, he decides to pour some magic into her again. He touches her on the back, and as he starts to unleash his magic, he tells Joan to open her eyes. She opens them doubtfully, but is surprised to finally see the magical aura surrounding her body. She starts to smile as she's finally able to understand what magic power is. Joan is amazed by her new ability. Since she can finally see magic power, she thinks about measuring Kusanagi's power level, but for some reason she can barely perceive anything from him, which leaves her confused. He praises her for all her effort, but she considers it only natural, since she's a genius. Now that she can finally use magic perception, he informs her that they are now going to work on adjusting her magic power. He explains the entire process of how to use the right amount of magic power for any spell. She needs to focus solely on efficiency and forget everything else. She also needs to use all her magic power to its absolute limit so that the amount of magic she can use increases once she recovers properly. He believes that she will now be able to easily follow all his instructions since she can perceive magic clearly. He's aware that what he's trying to teach her is completely different from the fundamentals of the Magic Academy, but he doesn't care if she believes his words. 1. Joan assures him that she believes what he says and smiles as she tells him she no longer doubts him. 2. He is glad to hear that her opinion has changed and decides to start the next stage of her training. 3. The protagonist asks her to step back a bit and get ready as they are about to fight. 4. She confirms that she doesn't mind, as she is eager to see his true powers. Joan uses first-level water sorcery and launches multiple water attacks, but our guy blocks everything effortlessly, which surprises the girl. She doesn't understand how he blocked them. He used a first-level barrier spell using non-attribute magic. He makes it clear that if she can't even destroy such a weak barrier, she has no hope of winning against her sister. She gets desperate and starts launching ice bullets. He explains that she must keep moving even while launching attacks because stopping blindly will cause her to lose if she faces a competent mage. She gets frustrated and launches more attacks, but eventually gets tired and gives up. He explains that it's wrong to use so much magic power without efficiency. If she manages to adjust the amount of magic power she puts behind a spell, she will eventually be able to launch attacks without needing incantations. Kusanagi asks her to watch closely and shows her how he is using magic. He launches a fire blast at a dummy twice and also demonstrates how he uses magic. She understands that the magic power behind her attacks is lower compared to his. He tells her she is correct and explains that he doesn't even need incantations to perform magic. If she learns to adjust her magic power, she will eventually understand that there is no need to recite a spell while performing it. She finally gets it, and he confirms that her first step will be to learn how to cut her incantation somehow. Once she learns to adjust magic, she will have no reason to use incantations. He believes it will be useful if she manages to cut the incantations, as this way she won't waste effort or magic power on them. Thus, her magical ability will undoubtedly become stronger. He orders her to get up and fight him again. She thinks it's too soon, but he calls it useless otherwise, and with a cold expression, he orders her to train as if her life depends on it. She gets scared, hearing this, and falls to the ground. He asks if she's okay and makes it clear they're going to do this daily. From now on, he notices she's not even listening to his words. During the night, our guy enters Arajuku. He recently sensed some monsters in this area as well and came to investigate. Even though he always tries to eliminate all the monsters, for some reason the numbers remain the same. Suddenly, he notices someone is being attacked by a magical beast. He wastes no time and quickly runs towards the child. He arrives on time and defeats the monster effortlessly. Instantly, the boy asks the little girl if she's okay, but instead of thanking him, she starts taking pictures of him. He quickly leaves the area and wonders why she didn't show gratitude and started taking photos instead. He thinks that there's definitely something wrong with people nowadays. He decides to cover his face next time and leaves the place. The next day, the protagonist starts training with Joan again. She falls to the ground quickly and gets tired. The days for the duel are getting closer, and he thinks her progress so far isn't bad, but she's still a long way from Ruka in almost everything. She has no chance of winning if she continues at this pace until the duel. He assures her that it's okay if she wants to give up now. She gets up and tells him that she has always been compared to her sister. Throughout her whole life, she has been forced to give up many times, as she always fails when trying to beat her sister, but she's determined to continue with magic and never give up. He makes it clear that she'll never succeed like this, but she tells him to be stricter. He agrees and decides not to hold back. She is happy to hear this and gets ready to fight. They both continue to train together and he teaches her many things. When the sun is about to set, Joan faints after an extreme training session and Kusanagi ends up carrying her back. After a couple of days of training together, he finally tells Joan that she is ready to fight her sister. She falls to the ground, relieved. Kusanagi praises her for her effort and hard work. She smiles upon hearing his words. On the day of her challenge, our boy asks her if she's ready to fight her sister. She answers affirmatively, and when they are about to enter the academy, they both notice a large crowd of people. Some news reporters surround them and confirm if they are really seeing Masuha Joan from the noble family. They ask for a few words about the magic duel and ask her if she is going to fight her sister. Kusanagi is confused. She explains that her family is huge, and since she's about to fight her sister, it's normal for the press to act this way. He is surprised to learn that people are so interested in a fight between two students and assumes it's because the Masuha family is very important. 1. They both arrive at the training ground, which is surrounded by a large audience. 2. He thinks it's a bit of an exaggeration, but she explains that it's rare for students to have duels, so this is more of an event than a challenge. 3. Joan is a little surprised to learn all of this. They are both called to the stage. Joan gets ready, but suddenly her body starts to tremble. He reassures her to just focus on working hard. She calms down and smiles, determined, and walks towards the stage without hesitation. She thinks of the protagonist as a mysterious person and admits that his words really reached her heart. Finally, Joan and Ruka face each other. Ruka is surprised to see that her little sister didn't run away. Joan confidently confirms it. Ruka calls her rude for believing she can actually defeat someone like her older sister, but Joan makes it clear that she is definitely going to succeed. Ruka decides to give her a chance and thinks that she has definitely changed a lot in the last 2 weeks. Joan is aware that her older sister is strong and realizes that the difference in magical power between them is extremely large, but she believes in herself and knows she is definitely going to win. The start of the duel is announced, and both participants are given permission to begin. Joan wastes no time and brings out her magic circle. Tries to cut her enchantment short, too. Ruka starts to attack, and Kusanagi watches the fight and understands that moving, while casting magic spells, is the basics of a battle. He assumes that Ruka knows the basics of a battle between two mages, at least compared to Joan, who got so nervous that she completely forgot the fundamentals and didn't move during the fight. She no longer has the advantage, even if she reduces her casting time. Ruka and Joan attack each other with first-tier water magic. Joan is able to hold her ground against her older sister's attack. She is surprised by her own capabilities and believes she has gotten stronger. Ruka admits that she has improved her strength in just 2 weeks. Joan is happy to hear her sister praise her, but Ruka humiliates her and tells her to stop laughing. Since it was just a comparison, she's not actually praising her. Ruka increases her magic level and launches a stronger attack this time using the second-tier water blitz. Joan can't take it. 1. She falls to the ground and collapses next to the protagonist. 2. He looks at her and knows that she is now good with enchantments, which has increased her chances of winning. 3, but her older sister is just too strong for her. Ruka calls him a cruel guy for not helping her up, even though he was protecting her earlier. He tells her there's no need to help her. Ruka doesn't understand what he's trying to say. Suddenly, Joan gets up and surprises her sister. Ruka doesn't understand how she's still standing, even though she was hit by the level 2 blitz. Joan makes it clear that she is definitely going to win this match. Joan has nothing else in her life but magic. Even if she ends up losing everything, magic is something she will never give up on. Joan starts to attack again. Ruka also starts to attack. Joan does her best to hold her ground against her older sister, determined not to give up, but she ends up falling after overusing her magical power. The announcer tells everyone that contestant Joan has exhausted all her magical power, so Ruka is the winner of this contest. Joan tries to get up to do something and win, but she can't manage it. Kusanagi comments that it was a battle of magic usage based on magical adjustments. He believes that his friend lost in terms of the amount of magical power. Ruka asks him if he understands now and calls her little sister untalented, knowing the guy probably thought the same thing. He confirms that she is completely untalented and very clumsy, that she made such slow progress and can't perform properly when she's involved in a real fight. But he tells Ruka that she is a very hard worker who practiced persistently every day like a fool. Ruka is still disappointed by the results, but he tells her that he loves people who work hard and don't give up, like Joan. The girl starts to sob upon hearing his words. He tells everyone that Joan is his disciple, and he doesn't like it when someone talks bad about her so casually. Joan starts to cry uncontrollably. 1, Ruka calls him arrogant and wonders why he's talking so much for someone with 100 magical power. He makes it clear that he will defeat her with his 100 magical power. She thinks he's just good at talking nonsense, but decides to agree. Ruka tells him his opponent is someone else, Rikasaragi. He appears excited because it's his turn. Ruka advises him to finish it quickly, and he assures her that he doesn't need to be told twice. Kusanagi takes Joan outside and tells her to rest, ordering her to watch closely during the battle so she can learn something. She understands his words, realizing the pain in her body has disappeared and that she has no injuries on her arms. As he enters the stage, the guy admits he can't win with only 100 magic power. Although he had said otherwise before, he knows that he will need to concentrate 100% to win. The protagonist decides to keep his magic power at 100 using an attributeless, enchantmentless attack. This time he isn't preparing a magic barrier, so he knows he could die if he's hit directly. He feels thrilled, calling the situation exciting. 1, Kazuragi gets ready, apologizing for not planning to hold back. The guy lets him know that he's the one who should hold back. 2, the audience cheers for Kazuragi, hoping he doesn't go all out, or the challenger could get seriously injured. 3, the guy ignores their words and activates his 8,000 magic power. The protagonist notices it and knows it's no big deal. But since he's only using 100 magic power today, there's a good chance he could actually be killed. The second match begins as they face off. Kazuragi hopes the protagonist won't hold a grudge after it's over, as he summons his magic circles with the attack he's about to launch, thinking he can test if Kusanagi really defeated those delinquents. He challenges Kusanagi to withstand his full power attack, but just as he's about to launch it, something hits him on the forehead. The protagonist is disappointed, calling the guy slow. The audience is shocked to see the match end so quickly. The announcer declares that contestant Kusanagi has won the fight. Ruka is surprised to see her friend knocked out with just 1 hit. She remembers he didn't even use any enchantments and wonders what kind of trick he used. Kusanagi hopes she's happy now that the match ended quickly, just like she wanted. She gets irritated hearing his words. Joan is also surprised and can hardly believe he actually defeated the guy. Ruka admits that he's strong, and he replies that he is in fact stronger than her too. She warns him to stop talking nonsense. 1, Ruka unleashes her 10,000 magic power. Kusanagi sees it through his magic perception and realizes she's stronger than the guy he fought before. 2, the announcer tells the audience that something unexpected is happening, as Kusanagi has used a different way of fighting, which has drawn a lot of attention. The next match will decide who the true victor is. The third match begins. Kusanagi uses the same trick again, launching magic bullets at her. She responds with water magic. The guy only has 100 magic power, which means he doesn't have enough to affect Ruka unless the magic bullet hits her on the forehead. He realizes she has already adapted, protecting her forehead and not running while using magic. Ruka keeps launching water attacks, but even after all that, Ruka is shocked to see the protagonist still standing unfazed. She knows he isn't using magic, but wonders how he manages to stay unharmed. The audience is also confused, wondering how it's possible that he isn't even wet despite being hit several times. Joan is also unsure about the technique he's using to protect himself, knowing that he definitely did something. Ruka attacks again, but this time the guy dodges her magic with incredible speed. She finally realizes how he's still standing, but is left speechless. Joan realizes that a magic attack can be countered with another magic attack, and that even if there's a big power difference, there's still a way to avoid the damage. Everyone knows that's the only way to avoid getting hurt. Ruka grits her teeth in frustration, knowing that her level 2 techniques have different speeds and masses, which makes it almost impossible for someone to come out unscathed against them. She wonders why the protagonist is still standing there without fear against such strong spells. Kusanagi knows she's probably thinking all this. He thinks it's easy to dodge magic attacks and can feel and detect them clearly, but it requires a lot of courage. 1. Ruka gets serious and uses a level 3 spell called Aura Splash. 2. The audience gets worried knowing it will be disastrous if Kusanagi gets hit. 3. Ruka is tired, but she's confident that Kusanagi won't be able to dodge this attack. Suddenly, she is hit by a magic bullet and falls to the ground. She doesn't understand how he's still standing. She wonders what method he used to dodge her attacks. He explains that he used a magic drain technique that absorbs magic. He simply walked through the center using Dran. Ruka is speechless at first, then starts laughing, admitting her defeat. The announcer declares that Kusanagi Manato has won the fight. Joan runs to the stage, asking if they're both okay. Our boy assures her they're fine, smiling as he says that he won. She smiles back, very happy. Ruka decides to keep her promise and gives them her word, allowing them to do whatever they want. Kusanagi is happy that everything ended well. He noticed that Joan's wounds weren't that deep, suspecting that Ruka was probably holding back in her fight. Ruka blushes, trying to make an excuse. He points out how much stronger Joan has become in just 2 weeks. He believes Ruka probably noticed that too, and thinks there's no reason for her to be so overprotective anymore. Joan speaks with determination, assuring them both that she will become stronger so her sister won't have to worry about her. Ruka smiles, finally starting to believe in her little sister. Kusanagi feels happy seeing both sisters getting along, but he suddenly feels an enormous pressure and realizes this is normal magic. The sky turns red, and the protagonist wonders if the calamity is happening again. Meanwhile, Tadano and his gang are trying to find something inside Kusanagi's backpack. They have lost many people after he demonstrated his power in the duel. His lackeys tell him that he only has textbooks in his backpack. Tadano calls the guy diligent and gets frustrated. He is sure that Kusanagi is hiding something. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a guy like him to use such powerful spells. One of the lackeys looks out the window and gets terrified. Tadano wonders if he has found something and gets closer. 2, they all notice the red sky and wonder what on earth is happening. 3, one of them guesses it's the calamity, but Tadano doesn't believe it's really the calamity. On the training grounds, the protagonist worries as he looks at the red sky. He wonders why he can feel such strong, normal magic. Suddenly, he guesses it might be the calamity. Everyone gets worried, and the audience starts to panic. Everyone is wondering what's happening. One of them doesn't believe the calamity is really happening here. 1, Kusanagi gets scared since he doesn't understand why a calamity is suddenly happening. 2, he wonders if it's related to what he felt in Shinjuku. Our boy doesn't know if it's a mere coincidence or if there's something important behind it. 3, the portals open and magical beasts start coming out. The students are terrified and begin to scream, but the teacher orders them to calm down and tries to lead everyone to a safe place. 1, Kusanagi wastes no time and fires several magic bullets to kill the monsters. 2, he uses magic to make an announcement. 3, our boy orders everyone to calm down, explaining that weak monsters will come out, since this is just the beginning of the calamity, so they don't have to worry. assuring them that everything will be fine, as long as they use their heads and follow his instructions. He tells them to run towards the gym and only move in groups, since it's dangerous to move alone. He asks Ruka and the others to evacuate as well. The teacher asks what he plans to do. Our boy explains that he wants to save the people still inside the school building. The teacher doesn't think it's safe to go alone. He calls the boy reckless and tries to stop him, but Kasaragi agrees to go with our protagonist so he won't have to solve everything alone. The teacher is worried, but he reminds the teacher of what Kusanagi can do. He has no choice but to give them permission. The teacher advises them not to risk too much and to stay safe. Kasaragi is confident that he won't die, but he tries to confirm it with our boy. Kusanagi shrugs and tells Joan he's going to leave now. She seems worried about him and advises him to stay safe. Kasaragi starts running and tells his companion that he will go first. His incredible speed allows him to cover 100 meters in just 10 seconds. He asks the protagonist if he can keep up. Kusanagi pulls out his magic circles and starts moving with impressive speed, surprising his companion. He makes it clear that he's the one going first. Kasaragi admits that he has incredible speed, but he realizes that speed by itself is useless. He decides to observe our protagonist closely to see what kind of power he is hiding. He wants to save everyone while learning more about Kusanagi. Our boy detects 58 magic users inside the school using his perception skill. He assumes there might be someone without magical power. If what he's thinking is true, he decides to check the whole school and save those students. Some students are attacked by magical beasts. He enters the classroom through a window just in time and uses his magic bullets to defeat all the monsters effortlessly. The female students are surprised. A monster tries to sneak up on the protagonist from behind, but he easily kills it without even flinching. Kasaragi catches up and asks if he's okay. Kusanagi hopes to help everyone evacuate smoothly and takes off. Kasaragi tries to stop him since it's too dangerous to go alone, but he fails. The protagonist is simply too fast for Kasaragi to follow. Kasaragi thinks he was being a burden, but he admits that he's not very useful, so that's probably true. He still can't believe that the boy defeated a magical beast without any effort. Kasaragi wonders who he really is. Kusanagi runs through the school hallways looking for more students. Although he is capable of killing all the monsters at once with his magic bullets, he needs to kill them one by one, since he is inside a school and there is a chance he could end up hurting a student in the process. He has no choice but to chase the monsters himself and attack them with low-level magic, so as not to hurt the students in the process. He enters a classroom and defeats more magical beasts to save the students fighting for their lives. After defeating them all, the students show their gratitude, but he already knows he doesn't have time to personally help everyone evacuate and runs towards the gym, one by one. Elsewhere, Kasaragi saves some students and assures them that he will take care of the monster while they evacuate. One of the students points to the sky for some reason and asks what is happening, and suddenly notices that some students are slowly floating down inside a bubble. He wonders what the protagonist is trying to do and questions who he really is. 2, our boy sent the students towards Kasaragi through magic bubbles because he believes he is good at taking care of others. So it's fine. 3, he suddenly feels something. 4, a female student starts to tremble in fear as she is cornered by a huge monster. She starts to cry and screams with all her might for help. A huge magic bullet destroys the beast instantly. She remembers it's the same one she saw before, when she was saved last time. Kusanagi appears and asks her if she is hurt. She realizes that he is the one who has saved her twice. Kusanagi reveals that she is correct, then asks her if he was also behind what happened during the practice class. The girl believes it's the second time he has saved her. Our boy confirms that what she is saying really happened. The girl starts to cry with relief as she finally has the chance to show her gratitude. She thanks him for saving her life twice. He is not bothered by it and thinks it's nothing special. She is left speechless. Kasaragi finally catches up to him, but he seems completely out of breath. He asks who he needs to save next. Kusanagi orders the girl to follow him and stay with him, as he is leaving now. She tries to stop him, but he ignores her words and leaves. She gets a little worried while Kasaragi wonders what she's looking at. Our boy knows there are still many people inside the building he needs to save, so he doesn't have time to wait for the police to arrive. He knows he must hurry and save everyone as soon as possible. In the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister learns that Kami Academy is being attacked by the calamity. His men don't understand why it's happening again. Everyone knows the last calamity occurred 50 years ago, and since then, nothing bad has happened. They ask the Prime Minister to quickly form a plan while they assume their country might be cursed. He informs them that both the Beast Countermeasures Division and the police department, along with the Magic Nobles, are being contacted. The self-defense forces have also begun their preparations for the calamity. His men remind him that they only have self-defense forces specialized in controlling disasters, but they don't have real mages who can actually deal with the monsters. He clarifies that he already knows all this. This was to be expected, as people have been living an easy and peaceful life without facing any calamities. For a while, they have spent almost all their military investment on national defense and international affairs, so they have no choice but to let the police and noble mages handle the beasts and demons. He gets frustrated upon discovering that the same catastrophe from 50 years ago is happening again. But this time, they don't even have Ichikami Manato on their side. Elsewhere, while driving, the girl asks her partner if the calamity is really happening again. He confirms it and believes it's definitely the calamity. She gets worried and starts to get anxious, even though they've been safe for the last 50 years. She is surprised to learn that the peace was only temporary. The guy tells her not to worry, since it's their job anyway. He is Sidusugo from the Metropolitan Police Department. The girl resolves to do her best as well. She is Sergeant Sanada Karen from the police department. News reporters arrive at the Magic Academy by helicopter. One of them covers everything and informs the audience that the calamity is happening at the Magic Academy. He tells everyone about the situation and shares that monsters are constantly pouring out and the sky has turned completely red. Then, a female reporter reveals that the magic beasts started appearing out of nowhere, so the students are taking refuge in the gym. Meanwhile, the teacher guides the students and believes it's not that hard to protect themselves, as they are only facing magic beasts. They should be able to defeat the monsters with proper teamwork. The world follows the news. Some kids are also watching and suddenly remember that the academy is very close to where they live. They both decide to escape as soon as possible. Outside the academy, people start to panic and run for their lives. Two men watch everything from a distance and realize that things are getting really horrible. The audience watching the news channels looks worried. Our guy notices the large number of monsters coming out. He remembers that the second phase is about to start soon and that stronger monsters will now begin to appear as the stages progress. Things will become even more difficult. There's no point in defeating them, as the beast will just keep appearing endlessly unless he defeats the boss monster. He knows the boss will only reveal itself in the final stage, so he needs to stay calm until then. He starts to get irritated, but he continues to save more people. He rescues 20 people and uses his magic bubbles again to let them float to a safe place. He has a hard time finding the students as they have scattered everywhere. He decides to move on to the next stage. Inside a random classroom, Tadano persistently shoots his fire magic, but gives up when he finds that his attacks have no effect and he's run out of magic power. As the demon soldier stands before them, the whole gang starts to sob and wonders how they got so unlucky for a second time. Tadano's lackeys. They remind him, they were already warned about this before, the bully gets frustrated remembering that our guy can defeat a monster with just one hit. He doesn't understand why he can't do the same thing. The protagonist appears and tells him it's because he's a weak piece of trash. Tadano opens his eyes and sees a magic attack that effortlessly kills the demon soldier. He's left confused, but sees Kusanagi enter the classroom. Our guy starts to leave, and a frustrated Tadano admits it happened again. He ended up being saved by Kusanagi for the second time. He asks the guy to stop and questions why he saved him again, even though he's extremely annoying and always acts like a piece of trash. The protagonist tells him there's no real reason behind it. He simply decided to save them because he has the power to do so. Tadano is left confused upon hearing his words. The bully starts to feel inferior and tries to insult the protagonist, calling him a coward who doesn't even know how to use magic properly. Tadano doesn't understand how he got so powerful out of nowhere. Kusanagi reveals his secret and says that the real Kusanagi actually died in a car accident and was reborn. Tadano finds no logic in this and wonders how someone can become even stronger by being so close to death. He expected to be a great mage, but he lost to a piece of trash like Kusanagi. Our guy calls him a weak piece of trash, since strong people don't oppress the weak, and even the weak don't oppress people weaker than them. He points out Tadano's flaws and thinks that he is just consumed trash by a sense of superiority that tricked him into believing he was actually something. Kusanagi makes it clear to the guy that a weak piece of trash like him can't even imagine facing our guy in a fight right now and winning. Tadano finally accepts it and kneels down. He admits that he was trying to run away from the reality that his powers haven't grown much since middle school. He tried to take out all his frustration on people weaker than him. But in the end, he was saved by someone like Kusanagi, who was supposed to be a weak nobody. He just couldn't accept the truth. He admits in front of his lackeys that they were all saved by Kusanagi, and the bully starts crying nonstop. Meanwhile, the protagonist is defeating the monsters in the classroom. A demon soldier enters the building to kill him. He fires his magic bullet, but the strong monster easily dodges it, so the guy has no choice but to unleash his powerful fire magic. He defeats it effortlessly, but realizes the demon soldiers are rapidly increasing in number. So it's possible the boss monster might also appear soon. 1. He assures the terrified students not to worry, as he has already taken care of everything. 2. Elsewhere, Kasaragi gets angry and wonders why our guy is taking on so much work. 3. He uses his fire magic to finish off some magical beasts while protecting the students. He assures the female students to stop worrying and follow him, as he will protect everyone with everything he's got. The students calm down upon hearing his words and start to cheer for him. He observes the army of beasts and wonders how he is supposed to protect the students against all this. Kusanagi appears out of nowhere and offers his help. Kasaragi begs him not to show up like that again. Since he startled him, our guy tells him to leave the place as soon as he takes care of all the monsters. But Kasaragi is worried. He thinks that defeating such a large army of monsters is almost impossible. So it would be better if they changed their route. The protagonist uses his non-attribute magic and kills all the monsters, including the demon soldiers, instantly, with barely any effort. Everyone is left speechless. But he reminds Kasaragi to guide the students out of this mess and start moving. Kasaragi understands his words and orders everyone to follow him. The students watch the magic bullets as they flee. Kasaragi smiles eagerly, realizing how strong the protagonist really is. Once everyone gets out, our guy decides to go back into the school and look for more students who are in danger. Elsewhere, the teacher motivates the students to keep going and not give up, so they can continue to push back the monsters. Joan starts to feel tired, but Ruka appears from behind and advises her to go inside and rest, since she would be a burden if she can't fight. Joan assures him that she will continue to fight with determination, as they don't have time to rest. Kasaragi finally arrives at the gym with the rescued students. The teacher praises him and orders him to guide everyone inside. Kasaragi asks about the situation. Ruka, disappointed, tells him that they are barely holding on. Joan, worried, asks about Kusanagi, but the guy assures her that our boy is still alive and well. She feels relieved and starts to smile. Kasaragi admits that Kusanagi is impressive and possesses great strength. He believes they could overcome the calamity with him by their side. Joan agrees with him, as she also thinks the same thing. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake. All the students are terrified and the teacher quickly tells them to evacuate. A huge army of strong monsters appears from the smoke. 1. Kasaragi notices the demon soldiers among them. He also admits that he has no chance of doing anything, since the army of beasts is simply too large, so they must escape quickly. 2. The strong second stage monsters begin to chase the students. 3. John tries to run to a safe place, but she is almost devoured by a magical beast. Someone kills the monster and saves Joan. It's the police department. Sidhu quickly orders his men to eliminate the beasts, and the police do their best to protect the civilians. The students sigh in relief upon seeing the police, thinking they are finally safe. Sidhu assures them not to worry anymore. since the police are here. He orders them to follow instructions and evacuate the school carefully. But Joan steps forward, telling him that the students are also ready to fight. Sidhu repeats her words, but Joan clarifies that they are not civilians. Ruka joins her and adds that they are mages. Sidhu understands their words and calls for reinforcements, ordering them to start attacking from the rear. Sanada admits that they are few in number, so they really need the help of the mages. He is frustrated, wishing the police weren't so useless. Meanwhile, Sanada uses his healing magic to help the injured students. The protagonist notices that the police have finally arrived and decides to leave everything to them. He is surprised to see that the police arrived before the self-defense forces. It's crazy to think that the country has no plan or precaution for a nationwide disaster. He thinks that this is a good lesson for the people who take peace for granted. But he decides to press on to help save the remaining students. The news reporter announces that the police have arrived, but the monsters are multiplying faster than ever. He wonders if the police will be able to handle the calamity and hopes the noble mages will arrive to resolve the situation. Some students watching the news get excited at the thought of seeing the nobles in action. An elderly couple recalls that they've paid all their taxes, so the noble mages should take care of this. The reporter hopes they arrive soon. Inside a mansion, a noble tells his butler to ignore the calamity. It's Fukujin, the head of the Fuka family, a noble mage. The butler asks again to make sure, and Fuka insists it's just a small-scale calamity that the police should be able to handle. The butler asks where Fuka is going, and the noble mage decides to go to sleep. The butler wishes him a peaceful night. Back at the school, Sidhu realizes the situation is out of control. He asks one of his men if they can handle the magical beasts at the entrance, but the answer is no. Sidhu sees the number of beasts increasing and wonders if they will be able to save the civilians in time. The self-defense troops are supposed to handle the rear guard, but they haven't arrived yet. There's no other option but to contact the noble mages, but it's strange. He can't get in touch with them. They're supposed to be the ones in charge of this, but they're useless. As the students help the police fight the monsters, Sidhu remembers everything he's learned about calamities. He wonders if the people from 50 years ago handled them the same way. He hopes the boss doesn't suddenly appear. The number of monsters escalates, and a huge purple beam of light fills the area. Ruka can't believe it. It's a demon captain. Ruka remembers that the demon captain is a rare beast that rarely appears in this era. Only noble mages can defeat it. John realizes they need magic more powerful than level 5 and starts to panic, crying because there's no one who can cast such powerful magic. The demon captain unleashes its power and summons several magic circles. Joan freezes in terror. Ruka steps in, using all her strength to deflect the attack, but her power isn't enough. She throws herself in front of Joan as a shield. The demon captain's attack hits her hard, but she manages to protect Joan. The younger girl watches in horror as her sister gets injured. The students flee, while Joan stays behind, desperately trying to save Ruka. Sidhu and his men are powerless against the monsters, calling for help. Kasaragi uses everything he's got, but the demon captain doesn't budge. The police admit they can't save anyone and give up, accepting their fate. Joan keeps crying, calling for help, calling out the protagonist's name as the demon captain closes in. Finally, the protagonist arrives, apologizing for being late. Joan tells him about her sister with a worried face, but he reassures her and says she just fainted. He quickly heals her wounds and grits his teeth in frustration. As he observes the damage the monsters have caused, he assures the girl not to worry, as he's about to clean up the whole mess. She puts her faith in him. Suddenly, multiple magic circles appear and all the students, the wounded, begin to heal. John watches as his older sister's wounds disappear and is amazed to see the injured students waking up. Sanada notices the magic as it heals people, surprised to see third-level holy magic, and admits that not even she can use it. She wonders who is behind this. Sanada finds her superior and asks if he's okay. The guy assures her that he's not hurt, just out of magical power. She asks him what's going on. Saito doesn't understand, but he believes they should focus on protecting the civilians. Sanada starts to cry and tries to stop him, saying he's being too reckless, but he is determined to fight, knowing that if he doesn't, everyone will lose their lives. Sanada stops him again and tells him there's no chance of winning since everyone is already dead. She points out that the police have already been defeated and how the defense troops and noble mages are not here yet. She has to admit they can't do anything anymore as the demon captain advances. The news reporter discovers that the entire police department has been defeated. She feels hopeless and thinks they're about to die. The students watching the news call the nobles completely useless and hope they don't die. People watch the news carefully and realize there's no one who can defeat the demon captain. The protagonist approaches the demon captain all by himself. Sanada notices him and wonders if he has a death wish. Saito tries to warn him, but our boy ignores his words. Kusanagi is here to stop the monster and prevent it from doing as it pleases. The demon captain expresses, terrifyingly, his desire to kill and destroy, which scares everyone and some students almost pee their pants in fear. Saito and Sanada can't move because of the fear and pressure, but the boy remains unfazed. He launches an attack and tells the monster to shut its mouth. The demon captain starts screaming in rage, and all the monsters follow him as he brings out huge magic circles and starts attacking the protagonist. He remembers going all out the last time he faced the calamity. Our boy knows that everyone around him will die if he does it again, so he decides to hold back to avoid involving the people. The monster's attacks hit him hard. Saito thinks it has killed him, but when the attacks almost reach the students, our boy brings out his shields and fires multiple magic bullets to repel the monster army. 1. Saito is left stunned and wonders who he really is. 2. The news reporter finds out that a student is fighting the monsters alone. She decides to get closer, since they can't see his face. 3. Suddenly the camera explodes. John smiles, knowing the protagonist is doing everything he can to not reveal his identity. She believes he can now go all out without distractions. As the boy persistently fires magic bullets, the students finally see hope and start cheering for his victory. A few magic monsters sneak up from behind and almost attack the students, but Saito kills them and decides to support Kusanagi from the back, as that's the only thing they can do right now. Our boy smiles, seeing the police officers working hard. He praises them and admits they're not as bad as he thought. He continues to fire the magic bullets. The demon captain screams and summons several magic circles. He starts using his full power and summons level 6 magic, which surprises Saito. He thinks they are done for. Since his powerful magic is on par with the nobles and there's no hope left for them. The demon captain uses level 6 dragon flames, and the whole place is engulfed in flames. Everyone tries to save themselves, while a huge fire tornado slowly consumes the entire place. Sito tries to protect his companion Sanada, but the students feel hopeless, accepting that they are about to die. 2. Sanada asks God for help, hoping that at least the students can survive. 3. He doubts that any student, no matter how strong, can defeat the demon captain. He doesn't think Kusanagi has any chance. 4, however, Joan puts all her faith in the protagonist. She believes in him with every cell in her body. 2, convinced that he can definitely win. 3, as the huge attack heads towards him, Kusanagi notices that it's slowing down. He realizes it's because the demon captain is forcing himself to use level 6 magic. He admits he can't face them with just level 2 magic, so despite his desire not to stand out, he decides to use more power. Kusanagi summons 4 magic circles and starts using the water attribute. Joan smiles and starts cheering for him. The water turns into a massive serpent, and Kusanagi is surprised, wondering if this is synthesis magic. The water and fire attacks clash, and Kusanagi starts to overpower the demon captain, but the latter refuses to back down, pushing with more force, screaming his desire to kill and destroy the human race. The fire magic intensifies, but Kusanagi puts in a little more power, and, after a struggle, the demon captain realizes he is about to die. The monster wonders how he was defeated by a mere boy. Kusanagi calmly replies that it was because of the demon captain's lack of training. He was expecting a better fight, but is disappointed to find out he was weaker than he thought. The sky finally returns to normal. Kusanagi smiles, relieved that the calamity is over. Now that he has defeated the final boss, the students are in shock, finding it hard to believe that Kusanagi defeated the demon captain. Everyone gets up and starts to celebrate. Even the reporter and the cameraman join in, finally feeling safe. Sanada comforts a student, assuring him that he is safe now. since the calamity is over. Sito looks at Kusanagi, calling him impossible. He doesn't understand how a student could stop the calamity alone. He doubts that even the nobles could have defeated the demon captain with level 6 magic and wonders who Kusanagi really is. His legs grow weak from the effort, and Kusanagi finds Joan, telling her it's all over. She smiles and tells him she always believed in him, thanking him. This brings a smile to his face. Suddenly, the students surround him, praising him for what he did. Everyone shows their gratitude, but Kusanagi, irritated, asks them to move aside. He regrets standing out like this, just like in his past life, and hopes he won't have to live an annoying life from now on. Joan notices how annoyed he looks. The announcement comes. The calamity at the Kamui Magic Academy has been stopped. The academy refuses to share details about the boy who defeated the boss monster by himself. No casualties were reported, although several people were injured. Kusanagi's classmates show him the news. He gets annoyed, but they think it's natural for him to be featured as the great savior. Kusanagi is promoted to S class, and his former classmates feel bad, realizing they can no longer talk to him the same way. Some students ask him about the secret behind his strength. Assuming he might have inherited the blood of a great noble mage, an S-class student observes how annoyed Kusanagi seems due to all the attention. He doubts that such a strong student really exists. Kusanagi's classmates defend him, confirming that he defeated the demon captain all by himself. The S-class student is still not convinced, thinking it sounds weird no matter how you look at it. Kusanagi takes this opportunity to leave the classroom, feeling relieved as he leaves. Joan finds him and asks if he's having a hard time, smiling mischievously. He doesn't want her to bother him, but she keeps talking. She thinks it's natural, since he is the great savior who protected the entire school. Kusanagi remembers that Joan was also promoted to S-class as a result of her efforts during the calamity, but she doesn't seem too happy about it. When he asks her, she assures him that she is happy, but it's because there's another person in the S-class. Suddenly, Kusanagi remembers Ruka and asks if she is getting better. Joan answers positively and points out that they have been talking more than before. Kusanagi thinks that's a good thing, and Joan feels happy about it. She thanks him for everything, expressing her gratitude. Suddenly, Kusanagi gives her a light pat on the head, which makes her blush and ask what's wrong. He clarifies that he doesn't want her to thank him over and over again. Once is enough. Joan starts to smile. In a conference, a man ends his video call with other countries. They are aware that getting support for the next calamity will be difficult, as they are already overwhelmed with measures and plans. One of them mentions the news about the student who defeated the boss monster. The others explain that it was a strange situation and that even the police department was completely defeated. They assume it might be a misunderstanding and hope that other nations will also be skeptical. The man orders his men to bring back the noble mages to prepare for the next calamity. On the school roof, Ruka and Kasaragi meet Kusanagi and Joan. They all look at each other for a moment, then Ruka shares her desire to ask Kusanagi for something. She wants him to make her his disciple. A few days later, Ruka sits with her sister and starts a chat. She recalls that the calamity was stopped by the protagonist. Her sister confirms it and reminds her that Kusanagi was the one who defeated the demon captain, using level 4 synthesis magic to do it. Joan. Ruka is amazed to hear this, remembering that not even high-level mages are capable of using such power. Joan assures her that she is telling the truth, and Ruka trusts her little sister's words, deciding to believe it as she starts to smile. Joan wonders why her older sister thinks she never lies. Ruka remembers that Joan has always been a straightforward girl, an obedient one who never lies, kind, but also hardworking. She finally accepts that her little sister is not useless and admits that she was the one being stubborn. Joan realizes that her sister is just worried about her. She stands up with determination and assures her older sister that she is going to change. Really strong, and that it will reassure her, so she won't have to worry about it for now. Ruka listens to her sister attentively and realizes how much Joan has grown. Hearing her praise, Joan starts smiling, unable to stop. Ruka is aware that no student comes close to Kusanagi and guesses that even her father might be weaker than him. She asks Joan for help, knowing that if she just goes with the flow, the most she'll achieve is becoming a high-class mage. so she definitely needs Kusanagi's help to become truly stronger. Meanwhile, in the present, Ruka apologizes for all her rudeness and is truly sorry for looking down on them. She already knows how absurd and selfish her request was, but she wants to swallow her pride and be direct. Ruka hopes he can make her his disciple. Our boy accepts, which surprises her. He confirms that he is willing to make her his disciple. But she doesn't understand why he's being so kind. He calls her weird for making a request and then acting this way. She knows he's right, but she doesn't understand why he's still so kind, especially after the horrible things she did to him. He makes it clear that he already accepted her apology and forgave her, so that's that. She is left speechless. Kasaragi takes this opportunity to make the same request. The protagonist agrees, since it's not that hard to teach two people, and the boy feels happy hearing this. Joan tells her older sister that her friend is really kind. Kasaragi also calls him mysterious. Later that day, the protagonist is called to the conference room. Sidhu introduces himself as a member of the Metropolitan Police Department's Beast Countermeasures Division. Sanada also introduces herself. They both bow their heads and show their gratitude, admitting that without his help, both the civilians and their teammates would have died instantly. Kusanagi wonders if they need anything else and tells them to stop thanking him, as they have already been showing their gratitude for quite a while. He believes that's enough already. Sito informs him that the investigation is over, but there's something that caught his attention. Kusanagi wonders what it is. Saito shares that he discovered our boy got his magical powers after being involved in a traffic accident. His classmates and the people around him say the same thing. But one student even mentioned that the protagonist completely transformed after the accident. Kusanagi remains silent and listens to the investigation. 1. Sidhu discovered that his personality changed completely, and suddenly his magical power became extremely strong as well. So strong that he could defeat the demon captain effortlessly. 2. Joan asks him to stop and asks what he's trying to say. 3. Saito decides to change the question and asks him if he knows anything about someone called the Black Mage. Our boy doesn't recognize the name. But the man shows him a video and explains that the Black Mage is someone who defeated magical beasts and cleared the area. While protecting people, he keeps his face hidden and only comes out at night. The protagonist understands what they're trying to say. Joan intervenes and asks why he is telling Kusanagi all of this. Sidhu replies with a smile, saying that they are both similar, not only in age but also in size and height. He discovered that the Black Magician is a strong and capable person, and doubts that any student his age would be capable of such feats. The other strange thing is that the Black Magician started his activities at the same time our boy was discharged from the hospital. Since it's completely illegal to use magic in the city without a permit or actual qualification, if a student is caught using it, the academy will have to handle most of the matter. But due to the great public attention it has recently received, the police have no choice but to get involved and take action. Sidhu makes it clear that just an expulsion won't be enough, but if the protagonist confesses, they are willing to do him a favor and reduce his punishment, so he needs to answer carefully. Sidhu asks one more time if he is the Black Magician. Kusanagi answers negatively, with no expression on his face. Sidhu looks relieved and smiles, happy to hear that our boy is not the Black Magician. The man thanks him for everything and decides to leave for now. Upon leaving the room, Sidhu is surprised that our boy didn't show a single expression. He praises his bravery for lying so openly if he really were the Black Magician. He admits that Kusanagi is not like a normal student and believes he's hiding something. Sonata already knows that Kusanagi is the Black Magician since their voices are similar. She wonders if his intentions were purely to save people that night. Sonata decides to keep his identity hidden. Although she knows this could be considered a failure for a police officer, she believes the protagonist is a kind person. 1. Sidhu decides to do his best to reveal the Black Magician's identity. 2. While Sonata thinks about keeping it a secret and helping him in any way she can. 3. After a while, the class's homeroom teacher introduces Joan and Kusanagi to the whole class. She hopes the other students will get along with them. The students start asking if he's really the one who defeated the demon captain. The girls ask Joan how it feels to be a noble mage. The teacher advises everyone to sit down as class is about to start. He is surprised at how famous the new students are. Kusanagi had to answer questions all day and feels awful. He remembers that this is the reason he was trying to keep his identity hidden. He hears someone calling him from behind. Our boy turns around and finds the girl he saved earlier standing in front of him. She hopes he doesn't mind giving her a little of his time. When the boy finds himself on the roof again, he wonders if it's some kind of rule to always go to the top when you have to talk about something. Joan follows him and watches what's happening from behind a wall. She was hoping to get some private training and wonders why he's on the roof. She feels a little jealous, seeing him alone with a girl, and tries to see what they're trying to do. The girl asks if he still remembers her, but our boy says he doesn't. She reminds him that he was the one who saved her during the calamity, and finally, he remembers who she is. The girl remembers she was about to die because of the magical beasts in the combat lesson, but then someone used their magic and saved her. She believes the person behind that magic attack was also Kusanagi. He remembers it, and she starts thanking him for saving her life. He doesn't mind and says he just did what he could. The girl starts blushing and calls him cool. Joan does her best to hear what they're saying, but he can barely hear anything. The girl reveals her feelings and says that she is in love with our boy. She hopes that he will go out with her. John is surprised to learn that she is confessing her feelings. The protagonist barely seems surprised. She knows she doesn't have many positive things to offer, but she assures him that she will do her best, so she hopes that he can make her his girlfriend. Kusanagi smiles and thanks the girl for the confession. She starts to smile, but he continues speaking and says that he is sorry. Her smile fades away. He politely tells her that he doesn't have time to start dating anyone, as he has something very important to do. She understands his reasoning and tries to smile again. She is glad that he was direct with her and decides to give up. The girl leaves the rooftop with tears in her eyes. Kusanagi advises Joan to stop hiding and just go out. She gets caught and comes out with an awkward smile. She thought she had hidden her mana well this time and wonders how he noticed. He tells her that her mana control is terrible and informs her that it is literally spilling everywhere. Hello, this is the second time he catches her spying like this. He wonders if she has a fetish for spying. Joan tells him, embarrassed, that she just arrived at the worst moment, that she didn't expect to hear anything. He asks her why she rejected such a cute and pretty girl. Kusanagi makes it clear that he doesn't want to date anyone at the moment. She is surprised, but he believes that the age difference is too great, even though physically he is in the same school year as them. Joan starts to feel happy, knowing that he doesn't want to date anyone. She doesn't understand why she feels so relieved to hear that he has no plans to date anyone, but Kusanagi interrupts her thoughts and advises her to start working on her mana control, as it is completely terrible. He thinks she needs a lot more practice. She assures him that she is aware and is determined to work as hard as she can to surpass her current strength, so that one day he will finally recognize her. That night, the protagonist arrives at another area full of monsters. He wonders if a new calamity is going to appear as they keep increasing. He hears a girl screaming for help. A man is using his magic illegally to harass a girl. He tells her that it is useless to scream as there is no one around. Kusanagi intervenes and shows the guy that there is still someone nearby. The bully is surprised, but our boy doesn't give him time and quickly punches him in the stomach. He uses his magic to knock him out, realizing that he is just an amateur magician and a bully, but his hand-to-hand combat skills are terrible. He assumes that the guy is not used to fighting against magicians. The girl he saved thanks him and asks if he is the black magician. He gets annoyed and quickly leaves, ignoring her words. Kusanagi realizes that the black magician everyone was talking about, including students and police, was him all along. He doesn't understand how he became so popular, and the next day, while eating with his friends, the protagonist talks about the black magician. He remembers that Sito mentioned an amateur magician who only comes out at night. He heard many people talking about it, so he is curious. Kasuragi assumes it is because the black magician has really become popular on the internet. Our boy asks what the internet is with an innocent face, wondering if it is something like a fishing net, and everyone is surprised to hear this. They wonder if he's crazy. In this day and age, they find it hard to believe he doesn't know what the internet is. They figure he must be really isolated and living under a rock. But this is worse than they expected. Joan explains that the internet is an information network that covers the entire world. Anyone can share any type of information on it, which is why things like the Black Mage spread instantly. People can also find anything on there, and since it has photos and videos, it practically contains everything. Kusanagi finally gets it. Kasaragi helps him understand that he can access any kind of information on his smartphone. He asks him to take it out and try opening a random app. Kusanagi's face lights up and he smiles uncontrollably when he finally opens a search engine. Everyone praises him and explains that he can now use the internet to look up anything. Our boy calls it easy. Ruka remembers he promised to help them train and wonders when they'll start their training. Kusanagi agrees to train them after school finishes, since they also helped him learn how to use a cell phone. He thinks about doing his best to train them well. 1. Joan fears that something bad will happen hearing his words. 2. During their training, the three of them get tired and fall to the ground. 3. Kusanagi is disappointed since they haven't even warmed up yet. He wants them to train as if their lives depend on it. 4. They all get up once more and assure him they won't give up that easily. He's happy to hear this and orders them to attack him with everything they've got. They bring out their magic circles and follow his orders. Elsewhere, near the Tokyo Tower, a couple of men recall that everything was completely normal just a few seconds ago. As they watch the red sky, 1. They both get terrified and wonder what's going on. 2. A huge army of monsters made up of several demon soldiers and demon captains appears. 3. Meanwhile, the three of them continue their training and fall to the ground again. 4. He asks them if they've given up already. Ruka and Kasaragi attack him at the same time, determined to show him they haven't given up yet. 1. He uses a barrier to protect himself and fires his magic bullets to defeat them effortlessly. 2. Both of them get injured. 3. But Joan sneaks up from behind and tries to surprise him. 4. He can easily dodge her and once again uses the same attack to defeat Joan as well. Kusanagi announces a break and lets everyone rest for a bit. Everyone is relieved as they can finally catch their breath. Joan takes a sip of water while Kasaragi points out that the protagonist is way too overpowered. Ruka agrees with him and is shocked that not even a high-level student can come close to his strength. Joan confirms it too, and believes he's different from all the other students. She looks at his face and sees his typical annoyed expression again. Kusanagi reveals that he almost lost his life in a car accident, and that when he finally opened his eyes, he had gained these mysterious powers. He doesn't know the reason either, so he orders them to stop bothering him about it. Ruka understands that he unlocked his powers on the brink of death, and wonders if that triggered something inside him. Joan can see right through him. She knows why he's making that face, and is disappointed to see how gullible the other two are. She believes there's a good reason why he doesn't want to tell anyone the truth, since he's so desperately trying to hide it. He decides to forget about it for now. Kusanagi can easily trick them and is glad they're so gullible. Finally, they finish the training session as the sun begins to set. Kasaragi calls it a great training session, but our boy calls it tough. Observing his attitude, Kasaragi assumes it's because he used to train alone before this. He feels very hungry and mentions he has to go home to cook. The protagonist is surprised to hear that he cooks for himself, not expecting the guy to be like that considering his appearance. Kasaragi gets a little annoyed hearing such harsh words and asks if the protagonist always eats out. 1. He replies that he only lives on instant noodles, which surprises Kasaragi. Kusanagi is surprised to discover how convenient the new world is. 2. His friend warns him about such unhealthy habits and points out that his body won't survive like that. 3. The protagonist feels a bit weird seeing how worried Kasaragi is, so he grabs him and decides to take him to his house so they can eat together. The guy tries to resist, but Kusanagi doesn't let up and drags him away. Kusanagi smiles, feeling happy to have a friend like him. Upon arriving at his apartment, our boy ends up watching the kids while Kasaragi cooks for everyone. He apologizes after cooking, but notices the protagonist taking care of them using magic. The protagonist assures him not to worry. He uses magic to create bubbles for the kids. Kasaragi calls him silly for his behavior and advises him not to use magic in his apartment. The guy is surprised to see that magic can be used for such things. The little boy consoles our guy after he gets scolded. Kasaragi is surprised to learn that he's very good with kids. The protagonist suddenly remembers the calamity from his past life and says that children are precious. Kasaragi calls him an old man for how he sounds, but our boy tells him to shut up. He starts enjoying himself while helping the kids read a book. They all begin to eat together and thank God for the food. The children happily eat the delicious meals. The protagonist tries it and is shocked to find out how good it is. His eyes fill with tears as he tries to remember the last time he had a proper meal. He regrets not taking care of himself because he was focused on fighting for so long. Kusanagi asks his friend about his parents, and the guy shares that he doesn't have a father. His mother works late into the night. He's the one who does the chores and looks after the kids. He even has to work a part-time job when he has free time, and Kusanagi is surprised to hear about his routine. But the guy assures him that he likes taking care of his family. The protagonist understands, remembering that he's a total musclehead who loves a challenge. They all end up sleeping together. Kazuragi apologizes to Kusanagi for making him sleep over because of his selfish kids. He doesn't mind and feels good doing something different for a change. Kazuragi feels relieved and thanks him. The protagonist doesn't understand why he's being thanked. But the guy explains that it's because of Ruka. She seems happier these days, and he believes it's all thanks to Kusanagi. Our boy wonders if this has something to do with love and asks the guy if he has feelings for Ruka. But Kazuragi says no, explaining that they're both misfits who don't get along with others. So they naturally became great friends. Kusanagi finds this is similar to his situation the next day. Both Kusanagi and his friend walk to school together. Joan wonders, frustrated, why they are so late. Kazuragi shares that the protagonist kept sleeping. They both discover that the boys spent the night together. Joan gets jealous and asks if they trained together. Kusanagi wonders why they meet up as if it were a natural thing. He admits that he's enjoying it. Sito appears with Sonata and asks the protagonist to give him a few minutes. The protagonist gets annoyed seeing them again. Sito apologizes for bothering the boy again, but reveals that it's something urgent. Sonata explains that suddenly beasts are appearing out of nowhere near the Tokyo Tower. She believes this is related to the calamity, so they want to ask for Kusanagi's cooperation in this matter. He tries to get out of it, since he's just a student, but Saito doesn't think it's right to call him a student, since he's capable of stopping calamities by himself. He tries to be direct, and shares that it's too much for the police to handle, so they need his help. Kusanagi asks if it's okay for them to reveal such things, but Sid tells him they have no choice, since they are completely cornered. He formally asks the protagonist to help them face the monsters. Kusanagi accepts. He was hoping to avoid attracting attention, but the situation keeps getting worse. Sito promises he will receive adequate compensation and that he doesn't have to contact the academy. Joan and her friends decide to help as well. Ruka is sure they can provide support from the rear, and Kazuragi agrees with them. 1. Sidhu thanks them for their effort, but he refuses to let them come along, since it's simply not possible. 2. Ruka tries to convince him, but Sidhu doesn't believe they are capable of fighting in a real battle, as they are just the most outstanding students from their academy. 3. He asks them if any of them come close to Kusanagi's level. Everyone gets embarrassed and falls silent. Saito advises them to head to the academy while inviting Kusanagi to go with him. The protagonist hopes his friends will one day reach his level, and they all feel motivated, responding with confidence that they will achieve it. At the police headquarters, our boy ends up involved in a conference. A man explains that hundreds of magical beasts are appearing near the Tokyo Tower, and that they need to form a plan quickly and take action before civilians get hurt. He shares that they even have a student on their side who played an important role in the last calamity that recently occurred at the Magic Academy. He asks the protagonist to stand up. He follows the man's instructions, and some men talk about him behind his back. One of them doesn't understand why a literal kid is involved in their affairs. The other man explains that Kusanagi is the one who defeated the demon captain by himself during the last calamity. The first one calls it nonsense, since it's hard to believe. Sonata feels embarrassed. Sito intervenes and tells everyone that Kusanagi really is the student who stopped the calamity and that he even defeated the demon captain all by himself. Saito confirms it, as he saw everything up close. He believes there is no one on the same power level as the protagonist, since he was involved in the calamity that occurred after 50 years. Sidhu thinks it's a good decision to have him cooperate with them and hopes everyone will treat the boy as their colleague instead of a student. The men still don't believe it, and they think he's just another student, acting arrogant, even though he's in a place full of so many professionals. The leader tells them that their objective remains the same, even with a new face among them. He orders them to act immediately and kill the monsters. When everyone leaves, Saito finds the boy and apologizes for what he had to hear. Kusanagi thinks it's fine and assumes his arrival just put the others in a bad mood. Saito is surprised by his maturity and realizes he should focus on Sanada instead. She starts to cry and tells him she was too terrified to stop the men. Kusanagi assures her not to worry. Since he doesn't care what a few men have to say about him, she starts to smile and calls him a wonderful person. As everyone heads towards the Tokyo Tower, Kusanagi asks about the approximate combat power they have at the moment. The police officer replies that they have 80 mages, of which only a few are high rank, while the rest are mid-rank. Our boy knows that mid-rank mages are capable of using level 2 magic, while high-rank mages can use up to level 3 magic. However, Saito admits that it sounds quite poor, although he points out that the protagonist is the strongest mage of them all, since he can use level 4 synthesis magic. At this, Kusanagi asks if they will follow some kind of plan. But Saito replies with disappointment that it will be a pure magic battle, so they won't be able to follow any strategy. He adds that they could easily win if they only face demon soldiers and magical beasts. Although anything above the rank of demon captain will require proper planning and counterattacks. Due to their great intelligence and power, Saito even doubts that such a simple approach deserves to be called a combat strategy. Kusanagi, intrigued, points out that so far he hasn't seen any special equipment capable of defeating monsters. The police officer tells him that they have nothing that can compete against magic and beasts, which is why they simply wear comfortable clothes or outfits that allow them to move easily. When they enter combat, the protagonist then remembers that anti-beast equipment used to exist. But Saito explains that there is very little left now, and that it has become very rare. Only noble mages possess such equipment. This surprises Kusanagi, who remembers that this type of magical equipment used to be common in his time, and understands that the use of magic and mages declined due to peaceful times. Although he considers such a drastic change to be absurd. This sparks his curiosity about what happened in the last 50 years, while Saito carefully watches his expressions, wondering what he is thinking. Finally, everyone arrives at the Tokyo Tower, and Kusanagi discovers that there is no active calamity, but that the number of monsters appearing is abnormal. He wonders what is happening in turn. The bragging police officers from before are also surprised by the numbers, as they did not receive this information in the report, and upon seeing a demon captain among the monsters, they lose all hope, and they decide to seek support from special organizations or noble mages, since they consider it to be beyond their capabilities. Saito, however, assures them that he has already called for reinforcements, although they will not arrive quickly. As the number of beasts continues to increase and illegal activities by mages are more frequent than before, which has overwhelmed the organization, faced with this, the police officers ask if they have no other option than to face those powerful monsters themselves. They believe it's a suicide mission and hesitate to act. Saito, left with no other alternatives, swallows his pride and asks the protagonist for help, asking him if he can defeat them. Our boy says yes, although the doubters begin to question him, since they find it hard to believe that some random brat could beat so many monsters. At that moment, Kusanagi notices something strange, which piques the curiosity of the others as the monsters become more active. Suddenly, the sky changes color and turns red, making Sanada and the other officers realize that a calamity is about to happen. Then, Saito sends a message to every post at the police headquarters, informing them that a calamity has appeared all over Japan as civilians begin to be attacked by magical beasts. He repeats his warning and orders them to prioritize saving people from any harm, pointing out that since they are dealing with the situation in an urban area, they need to take countermeasures quickly. Although Saito and his men are worried about what's happening, our boy remains unfazed. Meanwhile, the police officers see the calamity reappear and are terrified, wondering why it's happening. The protagonist, who knows that a calamity is a natural phenomenon, realizes that this one is being caused by the magical beasts from before, although he doesn't know how they did it. However, he wonders if in the last 50 years they might have learned a new way to cause it. Faced with this situation, Saido's men tell him they can't fight a losing battle without reinforcements and that, therefore, they need to regroup first. Shortly after, the calamity begins to move and the beasts start heading towards the part of the city full of civilians, which causes the police officers to start arguing among themselves. On one hand, some believe it's going to harm civilians, so they have no choice but to go and defeat the monsters. On the other hand, some consider it a suicide mission and are convinced they can't win. In the midst of the argument, someone comments that the police have become pathetic, which enrages the one who doesn't want to go. He makes it clear that they simply can't win against so many magical beasts. At that moment, Kusanagi jumps from the building, confidently stating that they can definitely win. Right after, he smiles and begins to use his magic circles to head towards the monsters. Upon landing among them, they notice him and all rush to attack him, though the police officers warn him to run away quickly or he'll lose his life. However, Kusanagi invokes a third-level magic spell called Wind Cutter, leaving everyone speechless. The monsters die instantly, but some demon soldiers activate and launch multiple attacks against our boy, though he remains unharmed thanks to his shields. Since the barrier proves to be very useful, he decides to put one up for the bystanders to prevent anyone from getting hurt during the calamity. As he cuts down more monsters, Saido is astonished by his strength, as he doesn't believe anyone is capable of using several magic attributes at once and assumes that only Kusanagi can do something like that. Therefore, he orders everyone to advance and follow our boy. In response, Sanada starts running to give him proper support. Although the other police officers tremble in fear, since they can't just run away, they fill themselves with determination and run towards the battlefield. Thus, the police officers begin to fight the monsters, which surprises the protagonist with their capabilities. However, the demon captain appears among the crowd of monsters, and a police officer sees it and loses hope since he knows that only a legendary class mage could defeat such a beast. Still, Kusanagi summons the water serpent again and assures the police officers that they can leave the demon captain to him while they take care of the rest. In a matter of seconds, he defeats the demon captain, leaving everyone shocked, who admit that he is very powerful. Afterwards, Saido orders everyone to keep fighting until the boss monster appears and tells them to take care of the rest, while Kusanagi deals with the demon captain and anything stronger that appears. As the protagonist fights the monsters, he now remembers the world calamity that occurred 60 years ago, the first calamity, and how after that event they became common and kept appearing over and over again, destroying the world. He doesn't want what happened 60 years ago to be repeated, as the calamity would spread across the entire planet. For this reason, he's glad to be there and is determined to stop it to prevent the destruction of humanity. In the middle of the fight, Sanada is attacked by a demon soldier, but the protagonist intervenes and kills it instantly, which makes her remember that it's just like that night. Then, he asks if she's okay, to which Sanada thanks him and tries to get up. At that moment, he realizes it's the same situation as before, so he gets worried and anxiously asks if she figured it out. However, Sanada doesn't understand why he became the Black Mage and wonders how strong he is, although she doesn't want him to hate her for asking strange questions. Embarrassed, she blushes and tries to stop thinking weird things since he's just a student. Suddenly, Sanada is attacked again, but Kusanagi protects her from danger and advises her to be more careful. She apologizes, and he asks her to stay by his side so he can protect her. Thus, he notices that she isn't capable of using combat magic, which causes Sanada to blush again and follow his instructions. Meanwhile, he wonders if she's really a student, since she talks more like an adult than like herself. Suddenly, all the police mages feel immense pressure and start to tremble in fear, wondering what is happening. At that instant, a monster emerges from the light, and Saido notices that it's a subspecies of a demon captain. He wonders why a superior species of demon captain is appearing now. The police officers understand that their victory is impossible, and doubt that even the noble mages could win against such a strong monster. However, Kusanagi steps forward. They try to stop him so he doesn't get hurt, as they believe he won't be able to defeat it no matter how strong he is, but Kusanagi assures them that he is going to win. At his words, the men stop trembling so much. Then, Sanada begins to pray for Kusanagi's victory, while Sidhu, aware that he possesses the same strength as the noble mages, considers that there's a good chance he can also defeat the subspecies. As the monster comes face to face with the protagonist, Sidhu gets excited, finally being able to witness our boy's true strength, and orders everyone to keep giving it their all until the boss monster is dead. Kusanagi confronts the new demon captain. He starts by attacking and casts fire magic at him. The police can't believe how strong the monster is, seeing it destroy several things with level 1 magic. However, our boy doesn't get a single scratch. The monster, surprised, wonders what exactly he is. Kusanagi replies that he's just a student. Immediately after, he starts using his water serpent again. The demon captain is determined to kill him and unleashes a massive fire serpent. The police realize it's level 6 magic and lose all hope. Kusanagi, aware that if he dodges the attack or simply blocks it with his magic, there's a chance his allies might get caught in all the fire, so he wonders what he should do next. Suddenly, all the beasts start to gather. The police are confused, but when they all attack Kusanagi, Sanada tries to warn him. Despite seeing multiple powerful attacks approaching, he remains unfazed and destroys the demon captain's fire serpent with his water attribute, while blocking the magical beast's attacks with his non-attribute shields. Then, it starts to rain. The protagonist feels a little unsatisfied, realizing it's all over already. Saito is left speechless, seeing how strong our boy is, while Sanada doesn't understand what just happened. Saito, still in shock, puts his hands on his head as he witnesses unimaginable things before him. He knows that only a noble mage can use level 6 magic, as it is an advanced technique on a level similar to remote activation. Sanada asks him if Kusanagi really did all that. However, Saito shares something even more surprising that he just witnessed. The protagonist used a second type of magic at the same time he was facing the demon captain. Normally, there's a cooldown every time someone casts 2 spells, but Kusanagi used them simultaneously. Even a single type of magic is hard to control, so using 2 at the same time makes him stronger than the noble mages themselves. Saito is glad that everything turned out as he expected and believes he has found the person he was always looking for. The new Ichikami Manato the protagonist, advises the demon captain to follow him to fight somewhere else, as it's too hectic there. The demon captain starts using level 1 air magic and rises into the sky as he moves to another location. He admits he's a bit surprised. He knows how to use air magic. He thinks he had to change position to avoid any cooperation from his army. However, the boy makes it clear that he's not affected by the terrible cooperation of the other beasts, and with a cold expression reveals that they moved so he wouldn't have to hold back anymore. The demon captain charges and attacks him, but our boy easily dodges all the blows coming his way and uses his arms to block some impacts. The demon captain takes the opportunity to cast fire magic, hitting him directly, and without wasting any time, he hits him again, smashing him into the ground. When the smoke clears, Kusanagi emerges unscathed, leaving the demon captain surprised. He then advances to attack him, knowing that his enemy has resorted to hand-to-hand combat because his magic is completely useless against him. Kusanagi declares that his efforts are futile and makes it clear that he can't land a single blow while landing a powerful punch on his head. The demon captain is sent flying, but he saves himself by summoning a magic circle. He believes that his punch can't do anything, since he's just a mere human. However, his entire body suddenly begins to tremble, and he doesn't understand just how strong his opponent really is, so, enraged, he asks him who the hell he is. In response, Kusanagi smiles and lets him know that magic isn't the only thing he can use, so he decides to show him a technique that he created himself. Right after, the protagonist smiles again and unleashes his powers, leaving the demon captain astonished, while Saito and Sanada feel the pressure and notice something above them. At that moment, Kusanagi uses the magic he is emitting to protect his body and starts to feel powerful, although the demon captain insists that human attacks are useless. Still, Kusanagi disagrees and decides to put his power to the test So he starts throwing punches and pushing the demon captain back, who finds himself cornered by attacks coming from every direction. And so, even though the monster pathetically tries to defend himself, Kusanagi continues to strike him with his new technique. Meanwhile, Sito watches the fight and notices that the kid is overpowering a genuine monster in a close quarters battle, which makes him wonder how that's possible, since human attacks are typically too weak against monsters. Nevertheless, Kusanagi is slowly wounding him with just his fists. As a result, the wounded demon captain doesn't understand how a human attack could leave him in such a pathetic state. At that moment, Kusanagi knows that normal attacks or weapons have no effect on monsters, but he also knows that if someone channels a massive amount of magical power into them, they do work. That's why attacking while covering one's entire body with magical power is called the fusion of martial arts and magic arts, a technique he himself christened as magical martial arts. Hearing this, the demon captain can't believe that a despicable human has surpassed him in strength, so he refuses to accept his defeat and tries to attack Kusanagi, but he easily dodges it, and without wasting a second, lands a powerful punch that pierces his stomach. Because of this, the demon captain calls him a monster for his strength, and at that moment, the other beasts discover their leader is dead, causing the sky to return to normal and the calamity to finally end. Consequently, the police officers feel relieved and acknowledge that the kid did everything, while Idu advises them to also kill the remaining beasts and stay on high alert. At this point, Kusanagi slowly descends and smiles as he decides to leave the rest in the hands of the police. However, he suddenly remembers that he hadn't used magical martial arts in centuries, which is why he couldn't execute them perfectly. Then, he lands and notices that the crowd of police officers is waiting for him, after which Sito thanks our boy for all his hard work and for defeating the monster all by himself, to the demon captain, thus stopping the calamity. Because of this, everyone shows him gratitude for his cooperation, and the entire police department salutes and respects him. Since that incident, calamities have continued to appear continuously all over the world. However, thanks to the cooperation between the police and the noble mages, all the new calamities were gradually stopped. Despite this, people began to get anxious and hate the government for being unprepared, also showing their disappointment in the mages who were supposed to protect them. As time went on, the anxiety grew until someone said they still had the Black Mage. So everyone started to believe in him, and the whole world wondered who he really was. Meanwhile, at the academy, Kusanagi starts to get irritated when the whole class finds out he was also the one who stopped the second calamity. So they call him amazing and shower him with praise, asking him if it's true that he had to face a demon captain subspecies during the calamity. This makes him uncomfortable, and he hopes the commotion will end soon. Meanwhile, Ruka notices his tired expression. Right after that, the teacher starts talking about the recent calamity and advises everyone to stay prepared at all times, since they are not just students, but also mages, so you never know when they might be summoned. Furthermore, she points to Kusanagi and calls him experienced. At that exact moment, Sanada shows up accompanied by some police officers. Then she apologizes for the interruption, and the teacher, somewhat anxiously, asks if there's a problem, but Sanada shows her badge and assures her that she came with the principal's permission. Finally, she calls out to Kusanagi and asks him to help them once more, which surprises our boy at how low the police have fallen, as he wonders why they never care about their image. Meanwhile, he notices the students are staring at him, which annoys him, so he decides to just leave. Before leaving, he asks Sanada to brief him on the situation. She, to reassure him, tells him not to worry too much, as he will receive rewards and recognition for his work. Then she explains that beasts are still appearing all over the world due to the calamities, and that illegal mages involved in strange organizations have also suddenly become much more active since they are short-staffed at the moment. Kusanagi comments that they came looking for him. Sanada, although feeling bad for asking for his help so many times, tells him they have no other choice, as he is the strongest. At this, Kusanagi takes out his phone and advises her to just call him next time. She apologizes, understands, and also manages to get his contact information feeling happy about it. Next, the protagonist asks what he should do now. She tells him to take care of all the beasts in Harajuku, and he understands. Although Sanada decides to drive him, he thinks they will be too late. For that reason, the protagonist takes out his magic circles and leaves the school. Only the police officers, seeing him leave, are surprised by his incredible speed. Once in Harajuku, the sky turns red, and two children are filled with terror. The older brother tries to protect his little brother just as a magical beast appears. They both try to flee, but the little one stumbles. In that instant, when they're about to be devoured, the protagonist appears and kills it instantly. After the attack, the children calm down and he congratulates them for holding on, telling them they did a great job. Then, he returns their Ichikami Minato toy figure and smiles at them to make them feel better. Right after, he hands the children over to the police and rushes to clear the area. As he flies away, the children bow to show their gratitude and the little brother smiles appreciatively. However, Kusanagi finds it harder to fight in Harajuku than at his academy or in the destroyed Shibuya, since the place is full of obstacles and people. Consequently, he can't use magic bullets, or he might injure civilians still running for their lives, even though he can differentiate between humans and beasts. Normal people without magic are not easy to detect, therefore the only way to save everyone is by patrolling the area. At that moment, the police arrive, focusing on killing the monsters while leaving the rescue of civilians to the army and firefighters. Soon, they find Kusanagi and call him by name. He remembers him from the calamity. He comes down and assumes the policeman is a reinforcement, finds him useful, and asks about the situation. The policeman tells him that they haven't even saved half of the civilians and that they're struggling to reach the east side. Without wasting time, Kusanagi fires a few bullets and decides to go check that area, although the policeman warns him about illegal mages there. He knows it's pointless to warn him, since he's the strongest. Meanwhile, other policemen see him and wonder who he is, as he defeats multiple beasts with ease. They believe he is some kind of savior in these difficult times. At that moment, Kusanagi defeats a demon captain with his 6th level explosive burst. However, he's surprised to find demon captains even though there's no calamity, something that hadn't happened even 50 years ago. As the number of beasts increases, Kusanagi notices they are getting stronger and the situation is getting worse, so much so that even he finds it difficult to handle. Because of this, he believes he needs a plan before things get out of control. Right after, he saves 2 more civilians and hands them over to the firefighters. Although he has some plans in mind, he's not sure which one to follow. Meanwhile, he uses his bubbles to save more people. Shortly after, Sanada and some policemen appear and he helps calm the civilians. The police thank him again, believing they minimized the damage thanks to him. However, Kusanagi disagrees, saying it was thanks to the police and the firefighters and that he was just helping. Then, the policeman admits that he's an incredible student and apologizes for his rude behavior during the last calamity, acknowledging it was because of pride. Kusanagi tells them not to worry and to stop thinking about it. The policemen, surprised by his maturity, thank him again. Finally, Sanada steps forward and also thanks him, commenting that she's still depending on his powers, even though he's just a student. He assures her not to worry, since he agreed to help. Kusanagi points out that the number of monsters keeps increasing, and that this time, they are stronger. Sanada nods, thinking they need a plan to counteract the calamity. Mentions that his superior is doing his best to put on an act while speaking. The kids from before approach Kusanagi and thank him for saving them. He is happy to see that they are safe. The little one asks him if he is the great sage, and the older one apologizes, saying that his brother is obsessed with the great sage. Kusanagi notices the toy and realizes it is an Ichikami Minato figure. He tells the kids that he actually is the great sage, and the little one smiles, already knowing the answer. Kusanagi remembers his past life, when someone asked Ichikami Minato for permission to make a doll of him. The excited man commented that he would not just make a doll, but also photo cards and keychains. Ichikami Minato doubted that anyone would want those things, but the man told him that people needed the great sage's support in their hearts, and that those items would be great for kids. Ichikami Minato did not entirely agree, But the man told him he was wrong, believing that it would keep people safe for 100 years, not just 50. He begged for his permission. Kusanagi smiles, realizing that man was right. He knows that simple dolls cannot save people, but he understands that people need him again now. In a shady club in the capital, some men are reporting on the Black Mage to their leader named Koyakuto, president of the underground mage guild Black Rebellion. He stands up after hearing about an illegal mage who does not belong to any guild. Furious, he learns that this black mage dares to go against him. He asks his subordinates if it is true, and the terrified henchman replies that it is. Koyakuto orders them to find the black mage's true identity, using military force if necessary. Suddenly, someone asks if they have permission to kill him. It is the executive manager named Kaya Suji. Koyakuto replies that they can only kill him after torturing him, to which Kaya gets excited, making a malicious expression. Meanwhile, Joan asks Kusanagi about his magic power level. Ruka says the same. As he has been curious for a while, he wonders if it is 100,000 or maybe even 500,000. Ruka knows it is possible for someone like our protagonist. He replies that it is 9,990,000 with a deadpan expression. Everyone is left speechless. At first, Joan does not believe it, and Kasaragi agrees with her on that. Ruka remembers that even Ichikami Manato's magic power is about 1 million, so he does not believe him either. Kusanagi is surprised to learn this. They all explain that people call 1 million the highest limit for that reason. They wonder why he does not know something so common. The protagonist wonders if his power is only 1,000, and he tries to look it up on the internet, but ends up confused. He smiles and admits he does not know how to use a phone. Since it is not worth the effort, he decides to give up. At that moment, he receives a call from Saito. The boy asks what is up, and Saito apologizes for the trouble, asking him if he has some free time. Kusanagi says yes. Then, the policeman asks if his friends are near him. Kusanagi tells him yes, they are there. Saito asks him to put the phone on speaker. Kusanagi has no idea how to do it, so Joan helps him turn it on. The policeman explains that since the number of monsters and calamities keeps increasing, he has decided to create a specialized squad to fight monsters. Known as the Special Magic Squad, wants our protagonist to be the squad leader. Upon hearing this, everyone is amazed to see their friend receive such an opportunity, and they believe it's such a special title that mages would kill to achieve it. While Joan assumes that her friend won't reject something like this, but to her surprise, Kusanagi ends up rejecting the offer. Joan asks him why, getting angry, while the police officer asks them to listen to his explanation first. The protagonist wonders why Joan is upset instead, but he decides to listen to the explanation. Saito shares that there are too many problems and that the police can't handle everything alone. Given that the monsters are increasing in strength, they find it difficult to keep up. He knows the boy understands his words. Kusanagi knows it's because the mages of this era have really low magic levels. He wonders what happened to the nobles. Saito shares that the leaders of Misua, Homer and Kai, are still stuck in a meeting abroad, so the only one left is also unavailable for many strange reasons. Kusanagi suddenly remembers that he never met Joan's parents. She tells him they still haven't returned from the meetings. Saito explains that the special squad will have many police officers and a few academy students. He chooses Joan, Ruka, and Kasaragi as members of the new special squad. He assures them that he'll handle all the troublesome work like paperwork and negotiations, so all they need to do is focus on getting stronger and leading the police mages. They will also receive proper rewards and increase their school credits, which will make it easier to find a job in the future. Saito starts begging, trying to convince the boy to become the captain. He hopes the protagonist will accept. Kusanagi feels a little annoyed, but decides to do it. Saito finds it hard to believe, though he looks happy. The others agree too, as Joan doesn't want Kusanagi to handle everything alone, while Kasaragi is simply interested in tough challenges. Although the protagonist is still not sure, he ends up accepting since he also wants to train more mages. The news reports begin to criticize the noble mage family, the Fucus. Not only did they abandon their true duty for some school disaster, but the noble family was also very slow in the monster subjugation. The noble hears the news and calls the reporters fools, since they assume noble mages can handle anything. Someone knocks, so the noble mage gives him permission to enter. His butler appears and informs him that the Metropolitan Police Department sent him a document. The noble mage reads the information about the creation of the special magic squad. He calls it foolish and thinks that useless people are busy doing unnecessary things. He feels a little disappointed, but assumes this might help to quiet the public. He orders the butler to call his foolish son. The butler understands and leaves. At the police department, the protagonist and his friends join the special squad. They all hold a meeting, and Sidhu starts explaining something to everyone. The protagonist is surprised to hear the word dozens, but Saito apologizes and explains that yes, they did have candidates. But for some reason, they didn't receive any applications. Saito believes they will get more applications once our boy starts producing real results. Kusanagi expected things to turn out this way, since it's strange for a mere student to be the team captain, so it was inevitable that there would be some friction. Saito hands something over and shares that it's a temporary mage badge. He admits it's an external cooperation, but explains that now they are all public servants. So if anyone has any doubts, they can show them this badge when necessary. He adds one more thing. The badges are only given when someone is part of a unit, and since they are all not yet qualified as mages, the badge is only temporary. Saito officially ends the student arrangement with Kusanagi and calls him Captain Kusanagi. He leaves everything in the boy's hands. The protagonist smiles, as it had been ages since he was in front of people his own age. He goes to the front and introduces himself once more. He announces that he is the captain of the special mage team and promises everyone that he is determined to make everyone on his team stronger than even the leaders of the noble families. His friends and the members of the police force are surprised, as it's something hard to believe. Kusanagi understands why they doubt him, but he decides to provide solid proof to dispel their doubts. He asks Saito if there are devices at the police station to measure magic power. The man replies affirmatively, but looks confused when he brings some meters. Kusanagi orders Ruka and Kasuragi to step forward and measure their power levels. They decide to follow his orders, and as they both pour their magic into the machine, the protagonist tells everyone that Ruka's magic power was only 10,000 last time, while Kasuragi had 8,000 magic power. Ruka is left speechless upon getting a result of 30,000 magic power, while Kasuragi is surprised to see 28,000 on the measurement screen. 2, the police officers are also amazed, as this is the magic power of the highest grade mage class. 3, Kusanagi asks for their patience and orders Joan to measure her powers. She listens to him, but feels a little anxious. Joan wonders what she should do now, as she believes the difference between her and her older sister might be too great. She knows she worked very hard, but at the end of the day, she thinks she's just an ordinary person with no talent. She gets more nervous and doesn't want to see the results. However, Joan calms down, as she doesn't want to run away from these challenges anymore. She stops worrying about the results and pours her magic into the machine, determined to always be true to herself. Saito and Sanada are left speechless when they see the results. Joan feels a little uneasy, but she opens her eyes and discovers it's 26,000. Saito remembers that, according to the records, her magic power was only 2,000, and he finds it hard to believe that there's a way to increase magic power so much. Kusanagi makes it clear to everyone in the room that it is possible to increase magic power, but that it only requires talent and the absolute determination to never give up and to keep working hard until the very end. He looks at Joan with a smile, pats her on the head to show her how proud he is, and tells her she did an incredible job.